So let's go ahead and see what prizes these players are competing for. There are 8 players currently left in the tournament, and 4 of them will be receiving a travel award for a future international championships of their choosing, which is an absolutely awesome prize. And eligible players who participate in the region qualifiers will receive special in-game deck boxes and sleeves to show off your accomplishments in PTCGO.
Yeah, that's the top 256 from each region, and you might see some of the players using those deck boxes in this tournament. So if we look at the top 16 players, we have grayed out the players that have been eliminated. In North America, Azul and Kevin are still going with those Urshifu and Victini decks, but we have had to say goodbye to Andres and Mike.
As we move over to the EU region, there are also 2 players still in the tournament. Tord Reklev, who we've already mentioned, is playing a Chinchino build of
哦，干2个电超梦晋级哦。4、5、6、7、8、9、10、11、12、13、14、15、16。昨天的分配，皮杰散步。哦，等一下，点东西，想要点东西吃。哎呦，干！我找一下我手机，手机嘞。 机是放在嗷呜啊？我的手机嘞？干，找不到我的手机。我没死。干。你娘嘞！我手机放在嗷呜哦。哎呦！干你娘的！刚我问博聪，我手机去哪里了？喂，干我手机是不是丢在那？你看他桌上有没有丢一台手机？对，没剩多少电了。干我过去拿，我现在过去拿，好，拜拜。你娘嘞！我要去拿我的手机088，反正比赛还没开始。哦，好烦，干又要跑过去。 有主播回家咯，演到哪里啦？三小咒术回圈。啊干啊干！我刚才看到速销网的对面，不知道搞得怎么样。对面好像盖赢了，是不是啊？一个老大。哦，速销王赢一场啊，败部打上来。哦，下面是林书豪，绝命令。干，下面这手牌是啥小？那我觉得剑牌打火牌不好打欸，这个锤子有跟没有一样哎。可比克迪你打他也是痒痒的欸，然后用喷火龙打到底。这样下面应该不敢养超梦吧？小狗狗，我刚才去拿手机的时候，他在嗷呜打 NBA 嘞，干嘴炮王，明天先呛他。小狗狗是真正的小狗狗。我们来看神仙打架，他还在打 NBA。看下面手牌好烂，烂到不行。我其实也还好哎，这个东东数下去也是算舒服哎。啊，不过他会养超梦吗？对面有超梦呢。一个皮姐，一个雷丘吗？没有东东鼠了，没看到。有没有换位？有没有压场地？哇塞！哦，还是可以输电的。 舒服哎、感觉被压腰场才是一个输点哎。比那个8成这个狗要死了吧？好看比赛吃咸酥鸡舒服、哦。看对面应该比克提尼出来8成收掉狗。哇，古月鸟先准备好诶，他怎么丢了一张龙接弓啊？没换位吗？干什么时候丢那张龙接弓的？为什么没有龙接弓？吃的太爽了，没看到。Absolutely。哇，还要拼东西啊？拼好拼满呢？到底是拼什么？拼的，他这个没杀掉狗是很亏的啊。我每次都觉得他的腰常常压到他自己。看对面这个电狗后手有压腰场还是很甜的，真的好猛。那我这边吃播组啊，吃播组 OK。有人接工吗？哇，拼到了，拼到了！哇，狗死了，狗死了！我就知道他这回合不管怎么样都要拼狗死。我大概如果是我也是啊，这回合不拼上去，直接把狗打死，实在太亏了。哇，这边只能随便上一只，然后等下8人撤退打麻痹了。这个呐喊队好像也没什么影响耶。哦，直接去球。要印章吗？要这么早印吗？1、2、3、4、5、6、7，一个火能。 干，等一下，麻痹，然后直接开 G 叉再躲下来吗？啊，那他直接开 G 叉，这我想不到呢，为什么？为什么？但这边打麻痹不是让他比较痛苦吗？所以等一下不管谁上来都可以打麻痹吗？干思维跟不上哎，这边为什么要开 G 叉啊？哇，古月鸟等得射了。哇，印章，印章，哇，这个时候印章印下去舒服，舒舒服服。啊，不过音箱帅上来，等一下可以抽一张。干卡下面真的是卡到不行。好，可以绿牌哦，2个球。有没有龙接弓？有吧，直接龙接弓了吧？哦，没有。龙接弓了吧？我看龙接弓3张都没发呢，还没有龙接弓，有这种那么倒霉的事？熔炉，可是熔炉拿起来火你也不能抽，还有牌可以甩吗？先击球，甩起来，甩起来！现在就是只要一张龙接弓就好了。空发，没有空发。哦，手上还有火呢，有吗？有吗？不会没有吧？3个龙接弓哎，没有。有没有梦幻啊？没有印章了。 直接老大，先把古月鸟杀死吧。落电下去。哇，干这个对面要拼的可多了。哇，场地还是压不掉。场地压不掉，也觉得还是不舒服。干什么？下面的现场从头到尾都没看过哎。哇，这古月鸟被打死，对面头也是蛮痛的。但有解吗？有解吗？梦幻先上来，点3D，喷火龙再上来打230。要拼什么啊？哇哇，有老大吗？有老大吗？哇，没有。里面还有2张老大。要马他吗？1、2、3、4、5、6、7、7、3、21、220。要上去玛丽打麻痹吗？他这个上去感觉就是下得来呢。这个直接上来，这样代表应该下得来吧？都不动。哇操！会不会Switch老大啊？不可能，没有逆鳞，没有2个能量啊，没有2个能量，没有2个能量。果然有Switch。哇，结束了，结束了。运章吗？啊，有印章也没救啦，这直电狗直接撤退，电狗直接打就死了。 哦，林书豪扳回一城，林书豪扳回一城。Jamie Lin，哦，他没有任何一只可以挡了哦，他没有任何一只可以挡了。他刚才剩一奖吗？哦，剩一奖哦。干皮杰还是好强哦，操！干他直接皮杰都不出直接用雷球打到底干这个要记得电超他们也打什么都有套路的。对面抢先攻，也不对，是对面抢后攻，因为这个他知道电超很仰赖后攻，电超没后攻，等于要几乎要慢一回合，所以电超先攻，直接丢2个电人。要拼皮杰了吗？能转几个？卡一个印章。先下一只卡普明明，然后可以先不动吧？这边可以先不动吧？哦，直接两个皮杰吗？那直接两只皮杰也好猛哦！直接2个皮杰哦，为什么要直接下2个皮杰啊？他需要一个皮杰，一个雷丘，一个电狗，3个位置，还可以再腾3个位置出来，2个位置给东东鼠。位置来说，也不会是不够用啦，只是好奇说为什么要放下2只皮杰。对面有梦幻，这个皮杰要穿应该不容易耶。唉。 我刚才是不是听到台湾？我刚才是不是有听到台湾？我没听错吧？台湾。我刚才有听到他讲台湾，不知道台湾什么。啊，没声音哦。刚才为什么昨天有声音，今天没声音？啥毛病啊？难道杰米令是台湾人吗？啊，我也不知道为什么没声音呢。啊，昨天不是好像有声音，今天怎么没？今天怎么没声音？
Because now you need to move
那你
your
就
crown
用
around
听的
because
吧
it's。weak to lightning, and you can't leave it out here. It's
啊
an，easy
我用
2
喇叭
prizes
放，
for
看能不
Jeremy.
能听到一些声音。
Oh, you see the air blues will be able to get out of the active, but this is a huge swing. That would have been absolutely fantastic. And he had.
哇
It's off the
靠！
boulder. He drew it off.
看下面要被惩罚了吗？明明没有飞。
So it wasn't one of those
我
things
刚
where
没
you
有被
think,
惩
"Oh,
罚
just，slightly out of
没有
reach,"
被
but
惩罚。
The rope is still being awkward because Jeremy
哦，怎么
selected
转
just
过
one
头
energy
看？
attachment peeker on.
看这件告诉我们不要皮呀！妈的，明明不先飞耶，喜憨儿。
Jeremy could go ahead and still develop Bolton here for an easy.
看，我觉得他差点被惩罚耶。
All else fails from this research, but I imagine we'll just be seeing Crushing Hammer research, looking for.
吓死，真的差点被惩罚
He。has the option to dance to the ancients on all sorts of Pokemon here.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely the way to go. And of course, one thing we do, no energy though, although basic energy. Because I was going to say, with that giant half in play, that does allow Jeremy to just discard an energy. Because I think there's only one in the discard. I could be wrong about that.
有换过吗？没有。
Speed lightning. And Kevin didn't need to play it down. But then again, if he's worried about things like Marnie, then he wants to kind of keep it in his, on the fields rather than in his hand where it could get lost. Oh, no, there were two in the discard.
Jeremy could have gone for a play where he air balloons the Bolton or the Raichu and then just Dead changes and looks for
两个气球
tag
给
switch
了。
or just regular switch, and then you could still have gone switch balloon and still got the full blitz off if you go Dead changing here.
干3个
But
气
dance
球
of the Ancients first means he's settling for the Bolton, not wanting to get rid of a couple of resources, the Eldegoss most likely the most important one here.
稳稳输
So
电哦，
instead settling with the
不
Electrify,
拼了。
he could have gone higher tempo.
他
for
这
a
个没有能
huge
转的哎。
150 swing, which could have set up numbers later, but instead he's just going to go for the standard approach of Bolton here. When you're not staring down a Victini V, it's a much better prospect because it forces a Reshiram and Charizard into play to take
干
the
很，我
response
这
KO
刚才那
from
个
Mr.
先明
And
没有
he's
先
also
飞，
been
我
able to
差
get a lot
差
of
点真的
energies
差点被
to
惩罚哎。
be
这个
threatening
已
that
知对面有
attack
古月
from
鸟，这个
Bolton
明
as
明
well
这
if
样
he
子
does take
下来
down the Bolt Storm.
Absolutely. We're seeing a very, very different game from Jeremy from last time. Now, we've got a Bolton that can attack. We've got a Raichu and Alolan Raichu that can attack. We've got a Pikachu and Zekrom that can attack. We don't need one Raichu and Alolan Raichu playing hero and taking 6 prizes all by itself, which was an absolute delight to see. Now we've actually got options on
下面是
Jeremy's
林
side
书
of
豪
the
没有
board.
错啊。
And Kevin, from
啊，可是
such
不知道
a
是不是台湾
strong
人。
looking start, now that easy prize isn't on the board, and there isn't really much Kevin's going to be able to do this turn unless he gets a welder onto a Reshiram and Charizard and uses his GX attack.
Yeah, I mean, all of these options look really awkward. If you're spit shotting, you're just setting up damage by the looks of things, possibly.
而且下面一脸
160 to the
台湾人的
Raichu
样子
or onto the Pikachu
会不会真的是台湾人啊？
reasonable for a setup for you. But you also want to get to work on your bench Pokemon because all he's got is a Victini right now with no energies attached to it. Are we going to see any welder at all this turn, or is he going to have to forego it once again?
I mean, without a welder, this is going to be super awkward. I believe he's still got attachment for the turn onto the Cramorant. Yes, he
但
does.
说
So
实在，Kevin
it
看起来有
looks
点
like
老
we
老
are
的
going。to see a spit shot. There isn't any other real viable attack that can be
这一把
pulled
又射
just with
谁？
welder. So we are going to see a spit shot, presumably into one
这
of
160
those
应该会
tag
射在
teams.
PJ
And
身
that
上
might set，
我
them
们
up
每一
in the
动都来
future
猜对手做
because
什么，才
Victini
会知道
VMAX hits
自己有没有
100
跟上
against the non-V.
因为这个
So
射
with
哪，
the
有时候这
160
种射哪一
spit shot,
只
that would put both of those tag teams
都
into
都
Victini
不
range.
知道哪一
So
只
it's
好的时候，
relevant damage,
可能要想他
but it's
接
not
下来
what Kevin
要做
wanted.
的是哪一步。
No, it's certainly
因为这
not.
古月鸟
Kevin has a
基本上
difficult
要
choice
死了。
here. Yeah, he's going to go for the right shoulder and alone right shoulder. I think I do like this as
射
the
雷
best
球
option because the Pikachu and Zekrom just has, you know, it's one more energy in range for the regular Victini V.
是因为雷球会打麻痹，对他来讲 比较
The
头
right
痛
shoulder
嘛
is just a tankier Pokemon, so you may as well put the damage right there. Jeremy opting to attach to his Pikachu and Zekrom, so he can easily balloon out.
160只差100滴哦
Thanks to the weakness, is holding on to a
只
ton
差
of
100滴
researches. Still doesn't want to get rid of his Eldegoss. Is gonna go
满
ahead
意驱
and
动
take a big KO and can
我怎么
continue
就
to
可以
put
6人
energies
都往他
all
自己
round
身
the
上填
board.
呢？哪一
Can
只
he
杀得
power
死
up the
PJ？
backup,
好像没有一只
Pokemon
杀得
down
死的
to-
嘞。
I think that's what you want to do. Spread the
可
energy
是往他自己
around.
身上填也
Really,
没
Kevin's
用，
not
有梦
one-hit
幻，
KOing these tag teams very easily. So if you can
所以
have
一定
three
是往
tag
后
teams
填
and
嘛。
or they're all being two-hit KO'd. Yes, Kevin can
因为
hit the
比
bench
有
easy
有
with
梦幻啊，
Cramorant,
重点
but
是
we've
有
seen
梦幻，一
Cramorant
定
is
是往后
not the
填的。
best attacker in this matchup because of its weakness to lightning. So I think this
哇
is
操
looking
啊！这个
really
能量
good
速
for
度要
Jeremy
见
at
谁
this
杀
stage.
谁嘞。
I'm liking his board setup. Game 2. It really did not look good for Jeremy, and as much as
1
I
2 3
joked
4 5
halfway
6
through that
7
game,
8
Jeremy needed a few things to go his way to really
9
pull
颗
back in. This game, we are not in the same position. Jeremy is absolutely in the driver's seat.
Yeah, it's
等一
role
下
reversal.
10
Now
颗
Kevin's the one hoping to buy back turns in one way or another.
10颗是不是刚好直
Needs to try
接
and
杀
still
掉
find
比
some
克
welder
提尼啊？
pieces. It's been his biggest struggle this game. He's only done a welder one attachment all game so far to a Cramorant. Tried to go for an aggressive line, didn't pay off. The Crobat didn't get him there. He does establish another Victini V now. But what are you looking for? Are you just going to try and
看
use
起
the
来像
Victini V again this
看起
turn
来
to
像
hit
戏骨工程
for
师，
like
笑死！
150 damage? That could be the line here.
I don't love that play because as we
但他
saw
看起来
in
真
the
的有点
previous
老欸
game, even if you're not getting the big
比我们
tag
年纪
vault,
都还
tag
大的
vault
感
just
觉。
does 200 for free energy. So that's
所
a
以年
KO
纪已经不是问题
Victini,
了。
at which point Jeremy goes down to 2 prizes remaining with multiple attackers
他一定
set
是
up.
古月鸟
He's
死了才
actually
想
got
东
boss
的啊。
orders in hand, there's Crobats and the
Yeah.
Denes. I mean, if Kevin
干你
attacks
们
with
不可以同一个地方
Victini,
留
he
言就好
basically
啊？
loses to boss
就一
orders.
下赖一下那个
Yeah,
一
and
下
that's not
YouTube，
the
可不可以
spot
去
you
我
wanna
们
be in,
的那个
especially against Pokemon,
YouTuber
which
留言就好了？
You know, the amount of resources Jeremy has kept in hand means that he's got quite a
干这个
robust
这个
hand against any
这个
hand
比克
receptor
提
that
尼
Kevin
应该
can have.
怎么样也
I think it's one
也
money and one
暂
reset
时
down,
这
so
回合
even
杀
there,
不
there's
了
not a
杀
lot
不了
in
谁
here.
吧？
Kevin does find the VMAX
除非他有
needs,
狙
so
查
slightly
枪嘛，
tankier Pokemon
可以
to
让他
lean
掉2
into.
个能量。
And he's going to be trying to set up a 2-shot by the looks of things with the max victory if possible. Big poker gear here. Can he weld at all? Just a Marnie.
Marnie.
It might, so Marnie spreading flames, possibly. Yeah, still missing welder.
Oh, that is not ideal. And the thing Jeremy's got going for him is he is going to force Kevin into an 8-prize game because there is 1 2-prize Pokemon on the board. So Kevin.
哇，被马完下面动都动不了啦！我直接填冷吗？
So we see a spreading flames, and you have to KO one of the Pikachu and Zekrom and finish off a right and load and right. That's the only way to get a 6-prize game going on here.
哇，玛
So
丽
the
上来
only easy prize on the board is Boltund, and you can't go after the Boltund.
1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 310 ，Oh my god！ 各位同学
Boltund can take
，311
the KO here. It just, there's 10 energies in play. That's enough.
Oh man,
That's absurd damage output from Boltund. This is what can happen with Pikachu and Zekrom if it's just not dealt with. And Jeremy is going to Giant Hearth away.
先丢
his
不要的
Team
东西，
Yell
压
Grunts,
手
and he's going
牌
to go。ahead and play this Marnie, mostly to dig
不然
deeper
等下
into
被
the
硬
deck,
起
try
来
and
会
find
有一
boss
堆
orders
没
for
用
next
的
turn,
东西
because。that's all he's going to need. But yeah, Boltund, what a huge
Switch
shift
应
he's
该
made
也
in
是
this
他要
game.
甩牌多
Look
甩
how many
用，
energies
哇，
are
刚还有
on the
2个
field
呐
for
喊
Jeremy.
队哎
It's，absolutely
这么呐喊
incredible.
哦，他
And
是要呐喊
Electrify
哪一
is
队
good
啊？
enough. Electrify is a good enough reason to justify playing Boltund, even as a 2-prize Pokemon V. There are so many games where Boltund is what gets you rolling in the early game, especially going second. But having this big attack, which apparently can 1-hit KO V maxes, just in the background as a handy bonus, really is
KO
absurd.
干
So
这个
Boltund's
痛到
gonna
不
be
行，
30 damage
哇
for each
操！
energy plus 10 base, that is exactly 310. Victini, unfortunately,
啊，
is
不
one
过
of the
比克
lowest
提尼
HP
这边可以
maxes
把
we
电
do
狗
see
打
in the
下
game.
去，
There aren't many
那
that
也
would be
不
KO'd
好
by that
说
attack.
哦。
But that's kind of irrelevant right now.
只是这个奖励一定要3-2-3呐，好不舒服。
Kevin has to try and re-establish a VMAX here. He can easily respond on the Bolton, but as you say, it's that 8-prize game that Jeremy's forcing now. The Bolton's so threatening that you can't not deal with it. You have to take the KO on it. We could even be seeing Kevin. Yeah, he's going to go.
哇，又是玛丽，感觉手牌烂到不行。
Eldegoss here. You're going to see the Hearth first, pulling some energies out of the deck so he doesn't draw into them. Because he needs to hit a VMAX once again this turn.
Does. Down comes the Marnie, and this is going to put Jeremy to a smaller hand, but Kevin is really on the back.
有进化吗？
Doesn't even have any bench space. Once again, he's got 5 support Pokemon on the bench, so there are no other attackers coming out.
哇塞，干怎么可能没进化？ 不是，怎么可能没进化？
Straight back into those bosses' orders. He can easily take the KO. He can retreat, attach to Raichu, and just tandem shock his way.
结束啦。
Tag Bolt GX as well. Even going to take the Mew so that math is out of the equation and just take an attack with the full blitz here.
恭喜林书豪啊！我们再下一层。哇，速效王下去了。平息，你看好速效王下去了。
Everything Kevin got going, and Kevin whiffed Welder on a couple of turns. Kevin did not have a great game. He didn't draw brilliantly. He missed some of those Welder drops, etc. But Jeremy just spread the energy around, set up multiple attackers, and like you say, we were there late in the game, and there is a bolt that doesn't even get Kevin closer to winning the game. Kevin still has to go, because otherwise it's just going to sweep for victory, and you know what that means now, don't you, Joe? Pokémon mirror match in winners final.
Winners, that's insane. Pikarom just won't go anywhere. It's sticking around, and I actually really liked Kevin's line as well, forcing Jeremy to go first, trying to punish that.
阿昌，你也太会做图片了吧？看我快笑死。阿昌，现在是要买宵夜还是买早餐？你昨天看到几点了？
Kevin to really kick on and skew that prize trace really nicely for him. You can see where the map was coming from. If you deal with the Dance of the Ancients, then you deal with the Bolton quite easily if you're able to.
哎，平奇，他直接被打爆哎，干！电超真的是猛到不行哎。
The Welder Dex is high tempo, high damage output sort of attacks, but not quite as good when your Cramorant is just sitting with 2 energies and you have to retreat.
干小狗狗快一点，快一点！比赛很精彩啊！哇操！干速效王下去了。虽然说他不是打速效，打比克廷，干比克廷你被电超打爆哎，暴打暴打。
And you've only got to KO one of the VMAXs, excuse me, the tag team GXs. They're all free prize Pokemon. It really would have been such an easier route. So congratulations to Jeremy.
回来套卡套到中午，干套什么卡套可以套到中午？是套10层哦。那我昨天的比赛还没补哎，我要找时间把它看一看哎，应该很精彩。哦 ，Jeremy Lin
players, or were they free in the tournament? No, they were free, and 2 of them have made winners finals.
Yes, certainly a good call by the looks of things. Congratulations to both those players for achieving that travel award for a future internationals. Let's also take a gander.
但 Jeremy Lin 每一场都是2比1打上来的。
One more game that we are going to be featuring for both of us, and that is going to be.
哦，助教王还可以打哦，他败部还没结束哎。
Absolutely, and these players now these are not quite on a winning end. They need to win 2 more games to get to that top 4. It is losers semis. If you're in the losers bracket,
全部都套卡套第2场。
That's when you get the top 4 and the travel award. We've seen us all before.
阿昌快看神仙打架，打一打看我们会不会全部变神仙啊？昨天已经看一整天神仙打架了。靠，怎么又是连击熊打火牌？又是连击熊打火牌？我怎么看昨天看一整天下来都是连击熊开蛮大的。这个270滴吗？妈连击熊随便喷一喷就死光光了。滑上来打150、120、120。
It's starting to get there deep through the losers bracket run. If he can take another win, that puts him 1 step closer. As you say, Azul, a highly decorated player, super consistent at regionals and at the internationals level. That's just 4 of many of the long list of accomplishments that he has. And yeah, as you say, Rapid Strike Urshifu, it's an archetype that he has been playing in some online unofficial tournaments to good success as well, so he knows it in and out, despite it only being around for a couple of weeks. Giovanni, a ton of results on his side as well. An LAIC semi-finalist, as well as a regionals top 16, another Latin America top 64, so doing pretty well on the international stage, his side, as well as a Providencia Regionals top 32. He's playing the Welder box variant.
好，
playing that
小狗
TVB
狗
match
火
as
烧
we
看
saw
起
in the
来了
previous
啊！
game, leaning more into those tag team GXs.
Yeah, it is very
大
much
国
an
际版的
old
连
school
击
deck
熊
against
强
the
到
new
靠
school
北，
deck.
因为有
Three
机牙
battle
起，
styles
真的
against
是强的
post
跟
battle
牛的
styles.
跟什么一
So
样。
let's head on over to the game then and see if it is going to be the old school or the new school. And it is an interesting thing. If we think a bit about the bracket, we've noticed, and I'm sure a bunch of people watching have noticed, that Azul and Tord are actually, Tord Reklev, the probable best player in the world right now, they are on a collision course in losers semis. If they both book their top 4 spot, they will be playing in losers semis. That is a matchup that a bunch of people will have looked at the bracket and spotted like we did. But I think it's
但
fair
这
to
两
say
个
that
人的
Giovanni
表
is
情跟
here
动作怎么
trying
看
to
起来都
play
怪怪
spoiler
的，不
going,
知道
you
怎
know
么
what?
说。
I wouldn't mind playing Tord in loser semis, you know?
下面
And
右
Mewtwo and Mewtwo
右下角这个
tag
感
team,
觉
sort of
感
Welder
觉
toolbox
就是
Mewtwo
阿
build
仔哎，
is quite
就是一
dangerous
副阿
for
仔的样子。
Azul. There's going to be some interesting back and forths going on. Azul does play a Mimikyu in his deck.
啊，我觉得两边
to
不
try
管
and
两边
safeguard
什么牌
as
都
well
应该
as
放上一张
a
机牙起啊！
Jirachi
妈的，
GX
机牙
to
起
remove
真的
that
是
weakness
真的
for
是
his
太
Urshifu.
OP 了
So。he's going to have to stay on his toes and hope that his tech cards can get him over the line here against Giovanni.
Absolutely, and I do like Giovanni's start here. Jirachi in the active is a great starter. There's a Mewtwo and Mew ready to go. Giant Halves, the Cherish Ball to maybe get either Dene and start searching cards. Azul, I mean, it started with Jirachi, and on the one hand, Jirachi isn't a good starter. On the other hand, when you've got Psychic Weakness and you're playing against a deck of a really good Psychic attacker, having that Jirachi which takes away your Psychic Weakness, it's quite nice having it on the board.
Yeah, you certainly want to find that early, and he has been able to do so. Also going to kick things off with a quick ball. Going to throw away a Giratina. That Dimension Breach not going to be helpful here, as Giovanni is not playing the Aurora build. He's playing straight fire attackers with his Welder Mewtwo box. Azul's going to have a look through his deck, as always, but probably going to be looking to find Urshifu in these opening stages. It's always something you want to develop onto the board.
啊，又是这个无限的拿牌，拿了好久，
Max
好
Rapid Flow
久，
on turn
好
2, it can be
久。
extremely dangerous.
Yeah, we've seen that attack a couple of times already. It does 120 to 2 of your opponent's Pokemon, active or benched. And, you know, Giovanni, like most players in the tournament, does play a copy of that Mew that protects your bench from being attacked. With the amount of Urshifu we were expecting, you had to play a Mew. But now we're in that weird situation where Giovanni might have to search it out early. And given that we've just seen the Urshifu come down with the energy, I think it might behoove him to search it out quite early.
Azul not done yet. Still has another quick ball to go.
感觉这个后手应该会把想办法把这个啊秒不了，刚讲完就下去了，哇，下楼了，躲下去了，直接打 GG。
So instead, he's going to try and safeguard that with an air balloon. Goes into his own Stellar Wish here to see an extra 5 cards, possibly developing a supporter for next turn if needed, or even things like communication can be handy if he wants to try and develop a VMAX next turn.
Absolutely. That's really good, of course, because we do have a deck on Giovanni's side which is reliant on those tag team GXs. So maybe pulling them into the active and taking advantage. We don't get much gusting off item cards. It's very much the exception. We're usually using that boss's order supporter. Being able to have that option against a deck which is teaming with GXs is a really nice option. But we do look like we got Stellar Wish.
哇操，狙他枪你娘嘞！
I think I've seen this before.
不会那么拼吧？
Switch it out for a quick ball by the looks of things. So I do like
干
this.
你娘嘞，真的拿了哎！
You Stellar Wish before the Cherish Ball.
不是吧？不是吧？不是吧？不是吧？不是吧？真的不是吧？
You go straight for the Mewtwo and then you Cherish Ball for an attacking
要拿吗？拿狙他枪吗？
Wow, still debating.
稳一点嘛，对
I have
嘛
to？think that the quick ball has to be the best choice
稳
here,
稳
so
的，
you
稳
can
稳的
win
啊！
some extra Pokemon.
这个老大用不到，
To
有
give yourself some valid attacks with the Mewtwo and Mew.
You do, but there was a big decision there, and you can see what he's thinking. Azul's got that Jirachi on his bench as 160 HP. We all think about Dedenne as 160 HP, really weak GX, but actually Jirachi's down there with 160 as well. It's so easy to KO with so many decks, but in the end,
哇，刚才这个狙他枪好诱人
that's a
哦！
little bit greedy. I need to get set up. Quick ball helps me get set up. And the thing is, that great catcher is still
拿席多兰恩哦！
Jirachi is still going to be on Azul's bench, so it's still going to be there. Of course, it's not just the early prizes. It's if Jirachi goes down, then that means that actually Mewtwo and Mew's hitting for weakness, which is also pretty big.
Yeah, and speaking of early KOs, The Heatran's getting in here for the potential to hot burn
超梦不要了，
GX.
刚才这个奖励真的是就是能拿他们一定要拿，他有算好这个一奖对他来讲很重要。他接下来就是要3+2把它结束。
It's going to help him out against the G-Max Rapid Flow. Can also fire off another Cherish Ball now. Can pick up that Reshiram and Charizard if he just wants to thin it with the Giant Hearth by the looks of things. Could even put it into play and go for Crobat for 3 here. Still looking for Welder outs by the looks of things.
Gets a great catcher, ironically, but not anything else. There's no way to KO.
没有龙接攻，他是不是想龙接
off
攻
the Giant Hearth, but like you say, does not have access to that Welder, which is rather upsetting. Would actually be a tiny bit short even with a GX attack. So we might, well, it looks like we are just going to see the very rare Hot Burn GX for 50 damage.
I think it's really solid. Azul can punish this with exactly the martial arts dojo that he plays in his deck. He plays 2 copies. So you can Gale Thrust for 190 if you are able to find a basic fighting energy and that stadium. But it's high tempo from Giovanni. Azul didn't take a supporter from the Stellar Wish, which I think Giovanni's also eyeing up now. Seeing, oh, he took a great catcher. That's kind of good for me. That's not a draw card. Maybe I just stick Azul here without the option to Stellar Wish, and maybe he just doesn't have much going on in his hand.
That would be big. As a 3-card combo, we need the Energy Stadium V Max in order to get.
干，刚才如果拿狙他枪出来，然后超梦直接下去，真的很精彩。
We do see the V Max coming down though, so there is.
我只是好奇说，为什么他会不想下超梦？到底为什么不下超梦？是因为对面有迷你 Q 吗？开卡比较大的嘛，对面有迷你 Q 吗
And we get there. Azul still obviously has Crobats and Denes that he could try and go fishing for if he needs to. Also wants to possibly develop some more Urshifu V, so he needs more than just this one combo piece. He plays 5 basic fighting energies in his deck to try and capitalize with an easy response KO on the Heatran. We'll see if he can get there. As it stands, okay, there's a backup Urshifu. That's pretty solid for you. Doesn't have the basic energy, so he's going to go for the Rapid Strike energy and just going to go for the Strafe attack instead for the 30 damage. Goes back into another Jirachi now.
Not really what you wanted. Now there is a Welder in hand for Giovanni,
移动神
but the Stadium isn't out, and with the Stadium not being out, he can only actually Welder with 1 energy. There's no board space to use
一张回收网都还没用到
something like a Dedenne, so there is going to be no draw. It is going to have to be a Welder to 1. So plays that Escape Rope is going to be putting Jirachi into the active and trying to get just a better option here.
Yeah, he wanted more than the 1 energy. Yeah, exactly.
干，没有火呢，没有火呢。
He could have gone for Welder 1 active and try and draw an additional energy to Steaming Stomp for the 1 prize. Instead, he's going to forego taking any target here, possibly just Weldering to the Reshiram and Charizard now for some setup plays for next turn, but he's been left with nothing here.
This is not good. Replacing that Stadium actually was huge. Azul didn't get the extra damage because there was no basic fighting.
干，两边手牌在比烂。
Had we seen a Giant Half stay in play, Giovanni would have got a full Welder last turn and would have a full Welder ready this turn. As it stands at the moment, we see Boss's orders bringing up the Mew, and we see a Gale Thrust hitting for 150 damage, taking out the Mew.
猜能量，哇，这个猜回收网一直猜起来也是蛮舒服的。
Let's see the Stellar Wish. Are we going to see no Giant Hearth once again? He does have the option to Great Catcher if he wants to. He will be Weldering probably to the Reshizard. Not enough energies though to really make it count unless you want to go. Well, you can't even double blaze. You've already used your GX. You maybe have to just Dede change his entire.
猜能量了啦，哪是不猜？猜起来也是舒舒服服。
Yeah, just not enough outs for him.
狙插枪妈妈。
Great Catcher, the Jirachi GX. It's going to Cherish Ball first. Can thin some additional Pokemon out of his deck now.
Absolutely. It's not looking great though. I mean, Azul has had a really good start to this game. The Mew is off the board. He's up by 1 prize.
也没位置下手英雄，可以丢了。
They're 1 prize each. But that doesn't really tell the story. Azul's setup is looking very.
但为什么会不想要走猜能量这个路线呢？干嘛？如果是我，已经猜下去。
He can take 5 prize. Oh no, not quite. He can take 4 prize in 2 turns, not
敢是我太认了吗？
He can take 5 in 2 turns if he goes Reshiram and Charizard with a Gale Thrust, and then you gust up to Dene, and then you double Rapid Flow.
Of course, absolutely.
Yeah, so he has got 2-turn wins set up.
That is
Giovanni
possible.
has been able to crowbat nicely here, gets himself
是因为他觉得拿奖励就是这样拿舒舒服服重要吗？
plus welder combo here, so he can take a 2
妈
KO. It's ended up being a nice turn for him.
下超梦
Taking out that Mew so that he sets up 2-turn win has actually helped out Giovanni quite substantially here.
下了啦，
With
哪
the
是
help
不
of the
下
extra？ Stellar Wish and the
干，
board
等一
space,
下
as you mentioned.
奇
Mewtwo
多让
probably
人
got
上
welder
去要
back
毁
on
天
top
灭
by the
地
looks of
了，
things.
再有一张
You would
Switch。
imagine at this stage, yeah. This is looking really strong. So, I mean, this is how fast these games can swing, right? 2 minutes ago, I'm sitting there going, oh, don't let Giovanni set up.
干，
He's
这个
really got this
超
on
梦出来
lockdown.
学
And now I'm turning around and
随
going,
便
well,
打
you
一
know
只
what?
要毁
Actually,
天灭
Giovanni
地
turned that
了。
around pretty quickly. Azul can still win in 2 turns, let's be clear. But actually, Giovanni is going to have in a very nice
连
position.
击熊还是有
indeed.
可能
So,
拿完这5奖的
presumably
欸。
here, we're probably just going to see a Gale Thrust into the Reshiram and Charizard. And then next turn, we would see
滑上来
that
T
G-Max
150
Rapid
哦。
Flow.
Yep.
There we go. And paired with a boss's orders, and that is the one thing
等
we
一
said
下再
before,
老
those
大
270
120
tag teams, they are actually in perfect range for the 150
干，好
and
刺
then
激
the
哦！
120. So you can gust up someone like a Crobat, KO it, while
啊，上面是到底动不动得了？感觉是没绿牌，卡了不少回合。
It actually hits the numbers beautifully on a lot of Pokemon.
Azul is
哇
going
塞，
to
又是
forgo
直接
the
只能
Stellar
滑
Wish
上去
once
打
again. No
150。
targets that he's willing to take, but
哎，
is
可以
fairly
动。
happy just going for the switch into his Urshifu. Does actually have to research away a
可
boss's
以
orders.
动
He
的话
can't
还
sit on
算
that
小
hand because he
事。
didn't have the energy to follow it up. So he's going to get a fresh hand, try and develop another VMAX now as well. And yeah, look to see if he can, especially the best turn could be if he attaches to the benched Urshifu as well. Then he would only need boss's orders to close the game next turn.
Yeah, I like this a lot. If you can just get a VMAX on the bench with all 3 energy rolling, like you say, then it's just 1 card that is actually needed. It makes it so
但等下
much
下面
easier.
有个
We do see
Switch，
Giant Half throwing
上面
away
也要
that
爆开
Barley.
嘞。
I don't think Azul's going to get any
Switch，
fire
差一
energy
张
here.
Switch。
But it's a nice, it's a nice little trick that we see from players. Just, I am allowed to do this, so I'll discard a card from my hand. I'll search my deck. Oh no, there's no fire energy. But it means you get to have a really good look at exactly where your deck is. Sure, you can remember your prizes, look at your hand, look at your discard, and try and figure it out. But it's quite a lot easier to just look through your deck. And of course, you get rid of a Marnie, which you don't really want to be drawing into. So now if you get Marnied or reset stamped, you've actually got a lower hand or a lower deck size. So you're
他
just
这回合上来打
marginally more likely to draw
150，
what you need.
下回合老大就
This
结
is
束
really
了。
nice for Azul. As you can see, he's setting
可是
himself
这
up
边
one
龙接
card
攻
away
完
from
要看
game.
有没有换位
Good。old boss's orders. Giovanni is holding on to reset stamp, but you'd actually be giving Azul
再
additional
拿再绿
cards.
2个火呢。
And you can only
哦，
draw
2张
three from the welder
Switch，
here.
2 张
You have to move your
Switch，
Reshiram and Charizard
2张
into the line
Switch，
of
各位
fire, I
同
think,
学
here as，
你
well.
们觉得他有没有？
Maybe just stealing
我是
some
觉得
quick
他有
neutral.
了啦，不然他怎么会打到这边？
Possibly
合
you
不
could
合
just
理啊
outrage here. You can give up the 3 relatively comfortably. It's not. Azul needs the boss's orders anyways.
有了啦，
Yeah,
哪是
I'm
没
cool
有
with？ attacking with Reshiram and Charizard here. I don't think it's really a huge problem because, like you said, without a boss's orders, Azul isn't winning the game next turn. It doesn't really matter what's in the
哦，
active
这边
unless for some
这
reason
边
Giovanni puts a
这
Crobat
边
on the
这样
Tele in the
印回来了
active.
呢
That would be terrible, but somewhat
安
unlikely.
尼
So
那
we are
边
seeing a scoop up net
Oh my
here,
God.
grabbing the Mewtwo
无好
that
讲啊
allows
呢。
Giovanni to put any supporter from his discard pile back on top of his deck, really guaranteeing the right supporter next turn, which is you imagine is going to be boss's orders.
I would say, yeah, boss has to be the win condition.
继续龙，
here.
继续
You
龙，龙
just
接
say,
攻，
Azul,
龙起来
don't。have it this turn, I'll get you next turn is basically the plan. But instead going for welder, that's a huge surprise to me. It's because he can only outrage for 180 and that the steaming stomp wouldn't close the game. I guess
老
that's
大
why
吗？
you don't have the numbers on your side for this sort of approach to boss next turn. So you have to weld instead.
哇塞
Oh,
Azul
now
has
we
！My
see it.
God！
Azul does
My
lose
God!
boss's
Oh
orders,
my
grabs
God!
up the Denali, and
Oh
now we
my
see
God!
G-Max
怎么又
rapid
是
flow
这样子？
KOs
怎么
the
又
Denali
长
in the
这
active,
样啊？
finishes
连
off the
击熊
Reshiram
真他
and
妈强到
Charizard,
不行
takes
啊！
5 prizes in a single attack and finishes off the game.
Yeah, that's one of the things about the Mew. It's a really nice tech card, but it
阿
also
昌，
helps
哎，
the
阿昌，
players
你是不是
back
看到
quite
连击熊都会
considerably.
打了？
It's the one and
你
the
看，
perfect tag
看到连
to
击熊都会打。
throw that combination. So even though it is a tech
我
card,
已
it forces
我已经
extra
看到会
rush
打
to
嘞、
lose, then it makes such an easy race for
你
the
娘
Urshifu
嘞，
player.
就随便先拿一奖，啊，再上来再踢一个270血的怪，随便踢一脚，啊，下一回合再老大就结束了。我跟你讲，套路就是这样，先拿一奖或2奖，啊，再给 TT 怪踢一脚。
The Mewtwo is basically always off the table because otherwise Azul can just sort of tag it with any early attack or tag it with Zigzagoon ping plus the Mimikyu combo. So Azul's tech cards really coming in clutch in that game 1 because it makes Giovanni play
啊，不过又下面这个也是拼到Switch就有了。
Yeah, that Mimikyu turns off abilities of GXs of any damage on. So you're right, between the Jirachi, which is getting rid of weakness, and the Mimikyu, which is getting rid of Mewtwo and Mew's ability, which really is the entire card. With no psychic energy, you can't even use that singular GX attack. And it really
不行啊，线上版的多龙无极还是太强了，太容易被克制。
Here's my one prize Pokemon. Here's my hit of 150 onto a tag team.
他们这16强没有人带多龙，这16强没人带多龙。
It takes reset stamp out of the game. It takes Marnie pretty much out of the game. Those hand disruption cards just do not have the same impact when you've got 5 prizes remaining. It really does help you so much. And as soon as you've got a couple energy on the board, you're kind of on a 2-turn clock to hit boss's orders.
刚刚这真的是要看你有没有猜对环境带什么、欸。看这个要真的看你们有没有猜对。因为线上版真的是干那个熊遇到铁人仓也是跟喜憨儿一样，线上版的敌人，我觉得熊的敌人算多的、欸。我比较想要看熊跟皮杰打吧，练草。对啦，重点是我觉得熊有配加喜实在是太强，我觉得差别在这边啊。这是我认为最大的差别。
And we saw that the early GX attack from Giovanni in the last game did get that KO on Jirachi, and that was lovely. But actually, there were opportunities later in the game where I think having a GX attack on board could have been quite important.
Yeah, I think he may want to save it this game, not only because there's the dojo that Azul can sort of punish, there's also the fact that you want to have Mewtwo bursting onto the scene almost, where it just comes in, does 400 damage into an Urshifu by copying a Reshiram and Charizard, and then sort of just saying, I've done my work, peace out kind of thing. Even if it does get hit with Mimikyu, it's done its job, yeah.
Yeah, cheers guys, I'm out now, I've done my job. Azul has started with the Mew here, and Azul has to play Mew like most people do, Urshifu and things of that nature. I mean, Giovanni's deck really is not forcing the Mew like so many other decks, so it's not a great starter for Azul, and really it's just kind of taking up a bench.
干上面是有带迷你 Q 吗？为什么下面超梦不敢先出来哦？真的不懂哎。超梦出来跟喷火先出来差别到底在哪里？真的不懂，但我真的不懂。我还是不懂为什么下面不下超梦。太小啊！
It's not a hard read, it's just that he's trying to crowback for an extra card.
There's a crowback coming.
哦，上面有迷你 Q 啊，难怪开卡表的啦。开卡表上面有迷你 Q， 看到了迷你 Q 出来了。所以下面不敢下超梦。所以连击熊带个迷你 Q， 超梦抖到不行。哇，这个也是牛的一逼耶。
This incentivized to stamp 6-6 because they're more likely to have an awkward hand, if that makes sense. So the fact that Giovanni had the good Jirachi made us all go 6-6 is worth it pre-Dedenne.
And this Stellar Wish is absolutely huge. Oh, we get the ball search. Because there is nothing going on in Giovanni's hand right now.
拿先机球击拉起甩起来吗
So the good news is that Jirachi, I mean, it is getting something. Is he getting the welder?
Yeah, he's trying to eye up Heatran plays again by the looks of things, or he could go Zigzagoon, Jirachi, and then scoop up net Zigzagoon, or back into the Jirachi. He's trying to double dip this wish by the looks of things, with the backup of Heatran being an option by the looks of things.
I think that's got to be the play because you.
哇塞，这边直接绿是什么意思啊？
It's not going to go terribly well, but certainly weldering onto a Jirachi, knowing that you can get the energy off with Heatran in the future, That does
干
have
这不
quite
是
nicely. Of course, with a Mimikyu on the
干
board,
这边
that's
直
got
接
to be
直
all
接
in
龙接
one,
攻什
'cause
么
if you
意思
bench
啊
a Heatran and it gets pinged with a Zigzagoon, then that energy is staying on Jirachi, and that's a bad thing.
I'm really surprised Giovanni didn't go for the double dip
其实
on
真
the
的不懂
wish. He could have gone for the scoop up, well, bench Zigzagoon, scoop up net Jirachi, then either rope or scoop up net the
当成
Zigzagoon,
绿
go
三
back
张
into
吗？
Jirachi and have a better potential target for the welder. As it stands, you've got this Jirachi that's got a couple energies. You know, your only hope really is this Jirachi sticking on board. You can switch into Zigzagoon potentially. You may also need to put down the Mew this turn as well, because there is one energy on Azul's Urshifu, so you don't want to allow an early G-Max Rapid Flow onto your Jirachi equally. So,
干这边直接龙，我真的不会，我真的不会这样做。我会想办法接他起再许一次愿，看能不能再拿一个球。他这个回收网到底是要留给谁的？
Because they can be, you know, you can give up 2 prizes in one go. So you've got to bench the Mew here to prevent that from happening. And essentially,
是会觉得喜多兰恩后来吸得上去吗？
if Azul could get a boss's orders onto that Jirachi, I mean, we saw that the supporter was just a welder. We saw that the welder came down onto Jirachi. Azul knows, or at least must suspect, that Giovanni's hand is not great. A boss's orders onto that Jirachi for the KO would put Giovanni into proper job top deck mode here.
And Azul's random stamp 6 to 6
他这个火能留
wonders right
都
now.
想要留着，然后这样子抽，最大的原因是喜多兰恩还可以用到吧
So？ he may promote the Dene that then could get air ballooned, or
干
he's
喜
just
多兰
gonna
恩
pay
强
the
牌
true by
欸
the looks of things. Guarantee an easy way
什
to
么火牌
attack
都会带
here. The Zigzagoon, I believe, is weak to grass instead of fighting. It's one of the sort of new age dark Pokemon. So he can't get an easy KO just with a Strafe plus Zigzagoon ping. He's going to have to find the VMAX if he wants to take a KO here.
He is, but oh, there's the Karate Belt, and there is the VMAX, and there
上
is Professor
上面
Reese.
排太顺了吧，舒
Good
舒服
news,
服。
there is going to be a KO. The board already says so. Bad news, it is not going to be on the Jirachi. It is going to be on the Zigzagoon. Still taking a prize, still nice, but not
你娘的，
perfect.
上
And
面
we
什么
do
都有。
see the Jirachi coming down here as Urshifu takes a KO. Pretty much just trying to make sure there is no Mewtwo burst play, like we've said a couple of times. It's not what you're looking for.
Okay, Giovanni picks up that welder thanks to his mind report.
干还有火
Wish
能。
towards a stadium, no, he can't, but does find ball search
刚刚
out.
这个回收
so
网就
can
是
just get
也
rid
是
of
白
everything.
留的，留了也不知道干嘛。
With a Dene here, he does have the option to go Heatran if he really wants to. The dojo isn't live right now. It would only be doing a +10. So
你
you can
娘
go
嘞！
for
到底
speed
刚刚
play
为
if
什
you
么
want
不要
to
加
continue
先知
to
球，再
remain aggressive? Or you
或
could
者
Dene change it
是蛇
all.
纹熊下去回收网起来，再许一个愿。
So you could reset the Jirachi, but to do
结果
so
要把
would
这
be
个
to
回
lose
收网
those two
丢了。
energies. You can't really do that either. So
干
looks like it's going to be a Crobat
想不懂
coming
想不
down
懂
here,
想不
just
懂
drawing a few extra cards.
不懂不懂。
Switching into the Mew, knowing that you can scoop
干这
up
火人
magic
硬
in
要
the
留
moment
欸
if you need to get it out the active. So Crobat draws 4 cards, and it's not great.
Yeah, that's not where you want to be. You don't want to be getting rid of your stamp. That's an extra welder that might have to go to the bin now as well. You can quick ball out that Heatran still, and you can scoop up net into Heatran to still get the attack off this turn. But then you're Dede changing a couple welders away. It's still not ideal for him.
No, that's
喜
free.
多兰恩
welders
先
gone,
上
and all
去，
you've got is 2 energy onto a Jirachi. That's
把
not
加
what
起的
welders
能量拿
supposed
走
to。do.
Here we go then. Giovanni is
看
going
加
to be
起
picking up his
身上他
Mew.
们终于没
And
能
there's
量
going to
了。
be Heatran coming into the active, yoinking all the energies that has gone on to some unfortunate choices right now. It's going to make sense now that the Heatran's in the active, stealing them for himself. The Mew has to get re-established here. We're also going to see Giovanni
干这样子算是没浪费吗？
the Dene GX. You have to think the Mew comes down, maybe for the
梦
prize
幻还是
race.
得下的
I'm
吧
not。even worried about Gmax Rapid Flow, but yeah, surely the Mew comes down. He's already played a lot of scoop up nets though, so he's not got many other.
干又是喜多兰恩西三人打130，下一回合开
I
局
mean, the
差。
problem becomes if you don't bench the Mew, then there could be a potential kind of easy. You know, it's just kind of like you take out the Crobat and the.
反正他也没有要拼
Jirachi,
东
and
西
then
了，
you
不
KO
懂是对
Heatran,
的
and。actually, that's 5 prizes. That's the game. So I think Mew did have to come back down, but we actually see Giovanni there choosing not to play the Dene because it takes up your last bench space. It gets rid of a
他
third
就是想要
welder.
这个拢起来，这3个能量都不要掉，然后给喜多兰恩
He does
吸
seem。to be taking the initiative. The only good news for Giovanni is that Heatran is actually
这样子在有西多兰恩的牌组，
Yeah, it's a
可以
really
想一下
awkward,
这个思
You
维。
know, if Azul has to two-hit KO through it, that's really awkward, especially if you're not getting
但我是
the
觉得我一定
rapid
不会
flow
这样做的。
value in between thanks to the Mew on the bench. So Azul's probably gonna have to find another VMAX here. He could take another turn just using Strafe even with the regular V, just to do a little bit of a prod here, because you can do the 30 into 160 if the Dojo sticks next turn. And we are going to see the research getting rid of a Rapid Strike energy by the looks of things. And we are indeed just going to see that strafe attack. 30, as long as the Dojo sticks, he's set up a 2-hit KO here. And he's keeping his VMAX nice and safe from
哇
hot burn
哦，
play
一
next
边
turn.
哇哇哇哇哇哇哇，
Absolutely. And when we could see a
东
KO
下
with
去
just an energy
手田
here,
老
but
大，
the problem with
开
that
局
is
差
you're
吗
using your GX attack early, you're getting rid of a support Pokemon, but giving up an
还是
attacker,
插字
that's
符
something you
先，
always
插
need
字
to
符
think
先
about. Like, generally
这龙接
speaking,
弓留着
you need
感
to
觉
rush to
OK
six
呢。
prizes, but it's always better to take
都
out
不要
your
了
opponent's
吗？
attackers to stop them, you know,
都
getting
不
their
要了。
tempo going. If you're taking out support Pokemon but giving up attackers,
Oh my god，
that is
什么
not
都来了，
really
哇，
where
来
you
了一
wanna
堆老
be.
大
Now the good news is we do have 2 bosses orders. And
Yeah.
kind of
回
interesting
收
that
网超
Giovanni is
梦
playing
龙接
bosses
弓
orders Lysander and bringing up that VMAX.
Yeah, he's going to hot burn GX, take 3 prizes. And
不用了，
try and
干
keep up in this race.
这么
It's
屌
kind of what he needed.
不是掉了
There's
两
not
个
much
龙
else
接
going
弓吗？
for him in the hand right now. This Heatran is almost always getting knocked
干
out
这
in
个
the
西
pulse
多兰恩
here.
他妈打
But
130
it's what
手
you're doing to keep
手
up in
田
the
在
race
开局
right
差
now.
是
The
怎
first
样
3 prizes for him.
到
Picks
到
up a Mewtwo
到底
as
是
well,
有
which
多
could be
套
handy
路啊？
for,
每一个人都
again,
要这
that
样
sort
用
of
哎。
burst damage needed. There
这样
is
算
the
西多兰恩做
Jirachi
坏了
GX
吧？
currently in play though, so that's not really an avenue for him just yet.
No, not quite. And we see the early GX, and I don't mind this. I mean, I like what Giovanni's doing in terms of taking prizes. I love that he got rid of the VMAX. I love that he's up by 2 prizes. But we've seen this a few times by players on stream today, and sometimes your hand and the game forces you into it. But the bench there is 5 support Pokemon. There's no other attackers rolling. So if this Heatran goes down, and the Heatran is definitely going to go... Oh, not yes, it is definitely going to go down. Because that 150 was an into
但不是啊，可是下面也是很懂得知道要拼这个老大哎。下面其实也是很懂要拼这个老大。哇哦！这边是没进化还是故意不进化？
Yeah, I mean, that's a really big KO. Half and Quick Ball aren't ideal. You can't really put any more support Pokemon into play because then your entire board is support Pokemon.
You've got to attack with something.
Eyeing up how many scoop up nets he has remaining. So tempo-wise, you kind of
但这个下面老大可能也是蛮多的哦。
then just hope that you can find your
不知道带
remaining
几张。
scoop up nets in addition to welding plays. Yeah, Giovanni just doesn't have the board state right now that he needs.
No, this is
再东一次，咚咚咚咚咚咚不咚咚，咚不咚咚一直咚啊，各位，咚不咚咚一直咚。啊，咚到我都没看到他打手了，打手不见了哎。
That is so rough for Giovanni. 2 remaining in there, not the highest odds, I'll admit, but you had to go to this play.
哎，下面真的要怎么赢啊？下面我真的想不到怎么赢哎。
With Mewtwo and Mew. And or he could even just be
是吧？是偏难打。
Okay, interestingly, still values the Mewtwo Mew over the actual Reshizard because there's a Mimikyu and there's a Jirachi GX. I kind of value the Reshizard higher here. He may be needing to just pass into the active. That's very bad.
干这个下面到底现在要怎么赢？
Now Azul can just take an easy 1, and then once again he's in Boss's orders range next turn for win. So it's an easy path for Azul now with a large hand size to boot.
Yeah, I mean, all you really need here is a VMAX and a new Urshifu getting ready, and you know, Azul's got that bench space ready to go. So you could, I mean, the Jirachi is already in KO range. Nothing needs to be done to KO the Jirachi. So all you really need to do is get an Urshifu down, ready to VMAX next turn, and it's just Boss's orders, VMAX.
对啊，就第一回合那里，奇怪，第一回合你们会直接龙接弓加起，还是你们会看手上有回收网跟那个蛇纹熊会再许愿一次啊？我怎么想我都是在许愿一次啊。
And that's what you'd really be wanting to look for.
Looks like Azul is still missing a couple of pieces. Hasn't found that VMAX just yet. Even if he does I mean, even the regular V may be out of range of any burst damage that Giovanni can come out with now.
但还是不能把它当成小丑在想啊。那以打小丑的想法来说，就是会再许愿一次，因为没有我们是没有喜多兰恩这种东西的，所以完全不会考虑说这个能量是等一下可以吸上来用的这件事，是完全不会。
Not what you're looking for here. So we do get that backup Urshifu. I love this. It means if the active does go down, you are just not worried.
哇塞，下面是不是走远啦
Jirachi, that's lovely. But the bad news, well, I'm sorry, the bad news for Giovanni is that it's just boss's orders and now game. Azul, well, I say does need a VMAX if the active goes down, but I just don't see how that active is going down at this stage.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it's happening. Giovanni looks like he's just conceding. I don't think there's an out there.
投了。
No, unfortunately, it's just not working at this stage. Did everything he could, but Azul just had his number. It was a different kind of game from Rapid Strike Urshifu. We didn't see those big double knockouts for 5 prizes in one go. We saw the V take multiple prizes, which is not something we used to see.
下面投了。
Azul is a really good player, plays the board as it comes, and a really nice series there from Azul.
Yeah, Giovanni, he just didn't get enough pieces going for him. He tried a really awkward Heatran line. I feel like that opening few turns, he could have gone for some earlier Jirachi dances before committing the Welder to the Jirachi. If you do it that way round, you have the extra choice potentially of Stellar Wishing into a ball search card more proactively, because he ended up putting way more Pokemon than he needed to into play, which then board locked him in the mid game, which really struggled. You know, he couldn't deal with realistically in those latter stages. That being said, Azul is teched heavily. He's playing the Mimikyu, he's playing the Jirachi GX. Both of them were established early enough that Giovanni couldn't take advantage of his Psychic type Mewtwo for any big burst damage that entire series.
And that is one of the downsides sometimes when you're playing an open deck tournament and when your opponent is teching so heavily, because Giovanni had to play the entire game thinking, oh, there's a Jirachi, there's a Mimikyu. I mean, it's better to know they're coming than be surprised by them, but it still forces Giovanni all game to be thinking, gotta avoid this, gotta avoid that. And then we saw
这你要什么时候办比赛？你要问老王啊。
So congratulations to Azul, who does carry on through the losers bracket. Commiserations to Giovanni, who has now exited the tournament. And speaking of the
Oh
losers
my
bracket,
god!
let's
Oh my
go and have a
god! 我
little
一直
bit
在
of
看
a
到
countdown
神仙打架啊，
and
神
see where
仙
we
打
are
架，打架，
at
打
this
架啊，
moment,
一
who's
直
still
打架
alive
啊。
and who we have had to say goodbye to.
Yeah, so it looks like the final boss for Azul is going to be Davide.
火烧又被连击熊送下去啦。
And it looks like on the other side, there's Tord or Matthias waiting to meet Kevin.
哦，透的打败部也是没上来，透的打败部也是没上来。不是手牌打开了比赛，看对方卡表的比赛。就线上赛的比赛原则上都是开卡表，就你打之前就已经知道对方的卡表。我觉得这个线上赛完全比的都是实力啊，其实你要靠赛靠到这边实在太困难了。他完全都在比实力，因为一直是波3，然后又开卡表。然后你这回合如果是你选先后攻，啊你赢了，输的人可以再选下回合输的人可以再选先后攻，所以我真的觉得这公平性几乎拉到真的是还蛮公平的。在台湾那种赛制学日本的那种赛制真的很靠赛，不是很喜欢。所以我会倾向就是多参加这种线上赛比赛，比较容易比出实力。哦，拍摄有钢丝吧。
Against a player from Oceania playing Pikachu and Zekrom. Joe, why is this deck so good?
Well, David made really swift work of his opponent just by hitting some heads on Crushing Hammers and having some really painful Marnies. Jeremy went the harder route and had some really close games, made some big pullbacks with Reset Stamp. But that's the thing about Pikachu and Zekrom. It's great on the front foot, but it also has the best comeback win condition in the game, in my opinion. You've got Reset Stamp, you can follow that up with a Paralysis, force your opponent into 1 or 2 cards sort of hands.
刚刚唱你那个影片真的太屌了，我刚才看2次我还是觉得很好笑。刚刚唱你怎么不当 YouTuber？ 但我觉得你当 YouTuber 太有才了，你这个剪辑不简单哎。
It's so good. Every time a new set comes
干
out,
你
there's
娘！打
someone
比
around
赛还
that
在那边
goes,
怕
"Oh, it's
怕
never gonna
怕
survive
怕
that."
太久。
Well, the most played deck in the tournament, Urshifu V
我还是
Max
觉得
turns
哦
out，
这种可以
Picon
比
not
实力的
terribly
比赛才是
worried.
重
Now,
点
Chip,
的。
you
可
and
惜我
Ethan
们
saw
超
a
的
whole
是日
bunch
本
of
赛
games
制，不是超
yesterday.
国际版的赛
Obviously,
制。
some of the players you watched yesterday are out, some are still going in. Were there any particular highlights from yesterday's stream that you want to bring up? Any players or decks that really stood out to you as something a little bit special?
Yeah, definitely. I really enjoyed watching Kevin Kruger's Victini VMAX deck. I know that you guys watched him unfortunately lose to Jeremy's Pikarom, but I'm excited to see what Kevin has for us
还
down
是
in
觉得
the
BO1 这
losers
种赛制
bracket.
实在是
He's
太
still
靠
not
赛
out of
了
the。tournament at this point. His list
哎，
seems
你
super
联盟
consistent
赛要可
towards
以，
that
还要
Victini.
打进16强，
So,
还只能输一
I'm
场。
a little concerned for him when he goes up against some of those
那当然
GX
每个人都
based
叠牌
decks,
叠
which
爆
is,
啊
I
干
assume
这
what
个
happened here
这个
against
BO3
Jeremy
就是这样
with
子
the Pikachu and Zekrom, but,
，BO1 就是这样
you know,
子。
he's got the Mewtwo and Mew, he's got the answers to those other non-VMAX,
唉
non-V decks.
And whoever he
我们
plays,
知道
if
把
he
对面
makes it
洗
to
牌
grand
洗爆
finals, it will be against the Pikachu and Zekrom deck. There is no other option
Right.
at this stage. It's going to be an awkward one. I mean, one of the things that's been really showing up here is the old decks are taking over. We've still got a couple of Urshifu. We've still got a Victini. They're in the
看
losers
有没有人可以
bracket.
翻
I
译
mean,
它中间到底
even
屁话那么
these
多，有没有什
Urshifu
么重
decks,
点
you know, we know Todd's playing one. We know
这时候
Azul's
品级
playing
是不是
one.
应该跳出来说，
There are
哦
well-known，players
我
in
讲
the
了什么很
tournament.
重要的
Do you
东
see
西，
one of
是
those
不是应该
decks
这样？
coming out of losers bracket up into grand finals?
I definitely think it's a possibility. Again, it's going to be very dependent on draws, matchups, but I know that there is an Eternatus in losers bracket, and that on paper is definitely favorable for Urshifu.
可能在讨论中午要吃啥？干你怎么知道他们现在是中午？
Piloted Rue, and that matchup can definitely be winnable. So I would not be surprised if we see an Urshifu slip through and get to grand finals against what could possibly be a good matchup in Pikachu and Zekrom.
It's going to be an interesting one.
我
I
听
mean,
到
Tor did
Pikachu
take out Pikachu and Zekrom earlier in the losers bracket, so we know that the Urshifu deck can take it out. We're down to our last 7 players. 2 have booked their place in winners finals in that top 4. We got 5 players still alive in the losers bracket. Joe, is there a player that stands out for you as somebody that you think has a really good chance in the tournament? Somebody's really impressed you?
I mean, everyone is just a couple games away. So at this stage, you know, everyone's at a really high standard, so it's anyone's guess. I feel like Tord still has a decent shot. I really like his deck list. I think he's got a decent run through the losers bracket. I think possibly the easier routes through the losers bracket than, say, Azul, for example. So I would still tip him off to make it through the losers at the very least and possibly make it all the way to grand finals. I feel like his build just gives him a few more flexible options against the decks that are out there in the field. And let's face it, the Urshifus, they're still in that refinement stage. It's only been a couple of weeks of this meta, but Tord is one of these players that comes out of the gate and he puts so much testing in with his deck list.
我明天打什么？我明天打什么很难决定诶。
very early compared to most other people, so I think that might give him a small competitive edge.
It would not be the first time we've seen Tord come to a tournament with a new archetype and go and win at a very large tournament. One of the biggest surprises for me we see here, Chip, is that there's Eternatus. Eternatus is still alive in the losers bracket now, doesn't have a great route with his Urshifu, etc., but is Eternatus, you know, playing weak discard energy? Is it a deck we should be taking seriously, or
看你俩怎么废
do we
话这
still
么
see this as a
多
bit of a fringe？ deck
赶
with
快
a long
打
road
下一
to
场，
victory？
赶快打
No,
下一场
definitely. Eternatus
每
should
场就
very
从
much
你
be
们中
taken
间屁
seriously.
话就
Even though you're
屁
up
话
against
很
Tord,
久
who's。got the answers, of course, the fighting weakness. You still got those weakness guard energies in your deck. Of course, Tord is playing that Giratina with the Dimension Breach ability, able to remove a special energy from an active Pokemon. So has the answer to the weakness guard energy. But if Matthias can make it past Tord and make it on to the next round, you know, you're up against a Victini VMAX deck, and Kevin, not necessarily the best, but not necessarily the worst. Some things will come down to, you know, of course, draws, who goes first. I think in that matchup definitely is very important as well. And you know, if Azul is unable to win his
小狗狗
own
是不是在偷睡
and,
觉
you know,
啊
you can potentially avoid that Urshifu matchup.
小狗狗
we
是不
very
是偷睡
easily
觉
could
啊
find, Matthias making his way over to the losers finals and eventually grand finals.
It is going to be Urshifu, and you
小
say
狗
yourself,
狗，记
Matthias
得
is
小狗
facing
狗跟我
Tord in
说
the losers，
哦，我
bracket,
们
which
今天
does
一起
mean
看到
that
比赛
it's
结
quite a
束，
hard one to
谁
start
睡
off
觉
with.
谁就是真
And,
正
you
的
know,
小
one
狗
thing that's
狗
interesting。me, of course, we've said that the players in the winners finals, they're already in top 4. They've got that trip to an international. When you hit the losers semis, again, those 2 players will be in that top 4. So, I mean, Ethan, what keeps players going when you've hit that top 4, when you've hit that great prize everyone's searching for? What kind of keeps you going in the tournament when you've already hit that prize you're looking for?
干用龙头地府去打双败，你鸟！我不是有病。
Again, such a prestigious tournament, being that these players have had to qualify through the tournament keys. on top of getting through their region finals, double elimination, such a hard bracket to maneuver through. It really leaves no room for error in this format. It's got to be nice to take that down, and it feels good to be able to boast to your friends and say, hey, I won the Players' Cup 3 Global Championships. That's got to feel good to let them know.
Yeah, people would be good about that. And of course, there is a little bit of pressure off when you get to that stage where you've got your top 4 locked. There's almost like that sigh of relief where we might even see the players going into those last few games that little bit looser. Well, it's been lovely chatting to you boys, but Joe and I have to leave you now, and I think you're going to take us all the way through to set us up for the final, so over to you guys.
Hey, review
Thanks
guys.
so much, Ross and Joe, for taking care of us at the start of the show. My name is Trainer Chip Ritchie, joined here by Ethan Hegster Heggie, and we are excited to see what kind of great Pokemon action we're going to have through the rest of the show. We're going to be taking the way through the rest of the losers bracket all the way
哦，
up
小
to
狗狗
losers
竟然还
finals.
没
So,
睡，
we're
好
going
啊
to，determine who those final
非常
players
好。
are today. I'm excited to see what's going to happen, Ethan.
It is going to be exciting. We are going to know who our winners finalists and our losers semifinalists are by the end of the stream today. But before we do that, we've got a quick spotlight video on what could possibly be the most powerful supporter card in the standard format, Boss's Orders.
干你娘嘞！啊是怎样？
Hey trainers, my
他
name
们
is
中间
Ross,
串场也
and
太
today
久了吧？
we
还
need
要
to
介
take a
绍
look
东
at
西
one
哦
of the。cards that is played in almost every Pokemon TCG deck there is. It's Boss's Orders. No matter when you started playing the Pokemon
哦
trading card， game,
小狗
you will
狗
have
煮
quickly
过头，都
discovered
在
how
旁边
powerful
假装
the
很
effect
忙
of
啊，其
dusting
实都
is.
没做什么
This is
事
when you get to， choose
都
one
被
of
发
your opponent's
现。
bench Pokemon and switch it with their active Pokemon. This causes more wins and losses than almost any other effect.
小狗狗
And
就
right
是玩
now,
煮过头的时候，
Boss's
就在那边
Orders
动
is
来
the
动去，
best
动
way
来
to
动去，
achieve it.
走来走去，
There
觉
are
得
many
哦做很
reasons
多
why you
事，
would
其
want
实
to
都没
bring
有
one
做
of
到
your
事
opponent's。bench Pokemon into the active spot. One of the most obvious is to take a knockout. Most decks right now play 2-prize support Pokemon like Dedenne GX and Crobat V. These are very useful Pokemon for drawing cards, but they give up 2 prizes when knocked out and are usually played for their abilities and then left to sit on the bench. Bringing them active can be a much easier way to take prizes. It's certainly easier to knock
啊，他
out a
刚才
180
他好像
HP
昨天
Crobat
介绍
V
红锤
than a
哦，
348
然后刚刚又介绍
HP
博士
Max，
啊，现在要
and
介绍老
Eternatus
大
players are certainly going to have some Crobat V on the bench.
啊，就是一些
Another
OP 到不
great
行的
option
志
with
愿
Boss's
者。
Orders is stalling. In some games, for whatever reason, you might need to buy a little bit of time. This could be because you've had a slower start, or because your main attacker takes a little longer to build up.
直接
Bringing up a
长养特
Pokemon
技
that，cannot attack, especially one with a higher retreat cost,
他
can
意
be a
思是
great
说老
option,
大可以来
as it
抓法
forces your
扇，舒
opponent
服
to have a
哦
way。to switch or retreat that Pokemon from the active spot, and if they don't, then they lose a turn of attacking, and you get to gain an extra turn of setting up without any of your Pokemon being knocked out or taking damage. Then of course we have the damaged but not yet knocked out Pokemon. Pokemon like Eternatus V Max can have as much as 340 hit points, making them especially difficult to knock out in a single attack. Having a Pokemon that gives up 3 prizes with a lot of damage already on can be a worrying proposition, often leading that player to move the damaged Pokemon to the
干这个
bench
苍响上面那
to
个
avoid
特
giving
性
up
跟那个攻
prizes.
击他妈超近
That's
的
where。Boss's
我
Orders comes in
我
and allows the
我没有
KO.
按错过，可是我看过我对
No
面
matter
按
how
错
it is used,
有几个
Boss's
白痴
Orders
不
has
少按
swung
错
more
过。
games than
刚刚
probably
要
any
按
other
攻
card
击
we，have
结
in
果
the
直接
game
按到
right
上
now.
特性，
So stay tuned to the Pokemon Players Cup 3
通常就
to
会
see
直接
how
投
many
降。
games will be turned on a well-timed Boss's Orders.
You said it yourself, Ethan. Definitely one of the most powerful supporters in the standard format right now. And I'm sure that's a card we're going to be calling out many times today, seeing if players can draw that last Boss's Orders to close out the game.
Absolutely, and I think we're ready to go ahead and take a look at how the losers bracket is unfolding. Obviously, we already have determined the winners bracket and who our winners finalists are, but the losers bracket is yet to be completed. So let's take a look at what we're going to be featuring. It looks like Azul has advanced already to the losers quarterfinals. He'll be playing up against David, but first, our first match we're going to be looking at is one with a player you may recognize.
哦，我们的速销王是不是还在比赛内啊？
Matthias Martini. This is going to be an interesting match between both these
妈
players. It's going
我
to
刚才
be
记得这边好像
Eternatus VMAX deck that we have seen a lot of
Told
in
还
the
有哦
region finals of the Players Cup up against towards concoction or whatever you may call it. This build of Rapid Strike Urshifu with Jinchino as the draw engine, similar obviously to that Zoroark, which we know Tord loves a lot.
哦，应该蛮有可能的哦。
The deck that Tord won his first international
哇哦
championship
哇哦哇哦
with.
哇哦哇
So
哦哇
feels
哦，这
fitting
个是
that
不
whenever
是
the
无极要被
spiritual
踢爆了？
successors
无
to
极要被
those
踢
cards
爆
get
了。
released, right? Golisopod GX, of course, very similar to Rapid Strike Urshifu, and then
那
Zoroark
你又知道我
GX's
明天要
trade
打
very
多了
similar to the make do
我
of
排多的
Jinchino.
很，好
Makes
吗？
sense
我
that
等一下
this
再
is
多
what
组
Tord
几
would
副。
gravitate towards and play for this event. Now, Eternatus VMAX coming
我等一下
into
就
this
组这一
tournament,
副
I don't think is
奇
something a
诺
lot of
栗
people
鼠
really
连
expected.
击多连击
Eternatus
血
VMAX
哦，
was,
舒
kind of
服
touted as the new shiny thing,
奇
right?
诺
This
栗
deck
鼠
that's
连
going to
击
be
血。
extremely popular and extremely good, and Eternatus is obviously weak to fighting. But we see a key card for Matthias is that weakness guard energy, which will allow Eternatus to survive a hit from a Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX, after getting powered up with a Gale Thrust, moving from the bench to the active.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, more than one hit. It can even withstand 3-hit knockout because of that massive 340 hit points, the biggest in the game currently as we see these accomplishments, both players well accomplished in their own rights, top 8s at special events. Tord, we've already talked about it, multi-international champion. So let's go ahead and get into this game, Chip. While we get into it, the thing I want to point out is there
敢
is
透的
a
还
specific
在啊，
card
但他
in
们这个
Tord's
败
list
部真的
that
是
is
很
going
败
to
部哎。
cause Matthias a lot of trouble. It is that Giratina from Unified Minds with that Dimension Breach ability, which allows Tord to discard the special energy.
就是还可以再打一个败部的赛制，这实在是
一
一个很好很稳定的赛制，有实力的一定打得上去。
with something like that Gmax Rapid Flow.
Definitely.
看下面这个手牌是不是哦还行有通信。哇，落宝直接上来耶，扭一个这一逼的耶。啊，不过上面可以拆能量哎。这个落宝有跟没有一样哎。其实我觉得我这边大胆的预测无极直接走远，直接大胆预测无极直接走远。
Yeah, interesting choice to throw the Zigzagoon back and have the potential to draw maybe one more card off of something like the Crobat, but is really prioritizing that Eternatus VMAX for the following turn. As we look through the prizes here, it looks like a Marty is prized here, so we'll
要连击熊很卡，有点难
and we see the Phoebe in this deck, sort of a little way to counter through something like that Lucario and Melmetal deck, which plays the powerful Zamazenta. We also see that Pal Pad in hand, which allows Matthias to be able to recycle these Phoebes to constantly have ways to get through Zamazenta. Not going to be very useful in this matchup. Looks through the deck that second copy of Weakness Guard is in the deck. So Matthias got to be happy to see that as we will see the turn 1 Weakness Guard attachment. And it looks like Crobat is going to use that Dark Asset ability. Draws 3 cards, pretty solid 3 cards. 3 access to Pokemon potentially with that Zigzagoon and the Great Ball. But Matthias here is going to be content holding onto that Great Ball for next turn. Wants to maximize the potential of getting a Pokemon after that top deck. As action is on Tord now, starting that Urshifu V. We'll have potential to grab some more Pokemon with something like the Level Ball. Great at this deck at searching out that 3-3 Chinchino line that Tord plays. Wants to be able to get that down as well. Can also grab something like a Jirachi. So if Tord maybe wants to find some sort of a trainer card out of the deck, can go for something like a Jirachi here with something like the 3 copies of Air Balloon that Tord plays.
Definitely. Matthias had an excellent turn there. Really solid cards off the Crobat, like you mentioned. Now has the ability to, get 2 VMAXs in play. Can and just 1 switch card away, plus a couple more Pokemon and 1 more Darkness Energy from taking the first knockout. And I think that's what Matthias really wants to do in this matchup. Tord's deck, while it is very, very strong once it gets set up, it is a setup deck, right? You're not quite as aggressive as other builds of Urshifu. You don't have things like Professor's Research to just dig through your deck and see as many cards as possible, right? You really do rely on getting multiple Chinchinos in play, having some slower setup
他这个
turns
奇诺
behind
栗鼠
things
走
like the
的
Gorman
还
Rex
是有个
Snorlax,
吉拉
things
奇
like the Stellar Wish
我们一定要找到这个
So
位
if
置。
Matthias can kind of push the advantage and start taking 2 prize knockouts super quickly, it could be a little too much for Tord to overcome.
我知道对面透的啊，
So that play with
他前面打输那个速小网。
in the hand after grabbing that off of the level ball. And a big key card in this matchup, as we see Dedenne is going to draw towards 6 fresh cards, is that Marty, right? Tord can build up these big hand sizes with that make do ability and put together those combo pieces to get something like the Gale Thrust online, put together the pieces to set up a Gmax Rapid Flow. And Marty is great at disrupting and putting that hand size down for Tord, able to get down that first Min Chino on the bench, and also has 2 rapid
奇
strike
诺
Urshifu
隶属
already
出来
down
啦！
with 2 very useful tools. That Air Balloon is going to allow Tord to be able to get a Stellar Wish off at any point.
如果
Smart
手上有
to utilize
绿
the
牌
first, as we do see the capture energy on that
哦，
Urshifu,
直接捕获
will allow
能量。
Tord to get something maybe like the Snorlax to utilize Gourmandize. We do know he's playing one.
干，我真的蛮想抄这一套的欸，就只杀在加奇而已嘛。
So it's going to give him a lot of options next turn to be able to draw cards with Make Do again. Such a powerful ability to set up those pieces this Urshifu VMAX deck needs, as Stellar Wish from Jirachi could find a whole bunch of pieces. Tord has not yet played a supporter, so we could see him continuously go through the deck. Does play a few copies of Marty, has stuff like Birdkeeper, so there are a ton of options here for Tord. I think just taking some time to look through. Tord, again, cannot stress this enough, very experienced player, wants to make sure he is taking the best routes possible when it comes to grabbing things. And there, as we said, that Birdkeeper, Tord maybe doesn't want to go into anything else necessarily on the bench. He's going to have to here with Birdkeeper, as we are going to actually promote the Dedenne GX into the active and pass the turn. So this could be a turn where Matthias can
直接送
put
一张
together
东东
pieces
鼠
to get a knockout on this Dedenne. It's not going to be too difficult, especially with that Dark Energy top deck.
Yeah, huge top deck there. Basically, the only thing Matthias needs at this point is to find one of the 4 switch that he plays, and then he'll be able to take the first 2 prizes. But, I mean, this makes sense for Tord. It's kind of, sure, you give up 2 prizes by sending up the Dedenne.
哇，什么都有，
You really
1、
do want to
2、3、
keep your Minchinos in
4、5、
play.
6、
Chinchino
6、
is your
38，
draw
刚好打
engine,
死。
and you definitely don't want to lose one of these Urshifus right away. So, and this is actually a big
锤子要锤这一颗吗？
It does have the switch card, but also the Crushing Hammer could get rid of that energy attachment on Tord's side. Of course,
不锤
while
了。
taking this knockout will activate the Karate Belt, and Matthias actually going to go ahead and hold on to the Crushing Hammer, maybe wanting
因
to
为
stay
下
back
一
for a
回
turn
合
when, you know, Tord isn't necessarily going to have Karate Belt active. I'm not sure.
Yeah. The capture energy in this deck for Tord is really utilized for setting up. Again, cannot utilize Gale Thrust with that colorless energy that capture energy provides. So I think Matthias smartly holding on to that to maybe disrupt something like a fighting energy that Tord only plays 2 copies of, or obviously those 4 copies of
对
Rapid
面
Strike energy.
一样可以
As
3、
another
2、
level ball
1
will
拿
get。 grabbed off that Stellar Wish, and there we see the Birdkeeper is going to draw even more cards for Tord. Just needs to
奇
find
诺
a
隶属
VMAX.
进化。
Interestingly enough, not playing the level ball until after the Birdkeeper. So that will be 1 less card out of the deck. That is not something like this Jinchino that gets grabbed, but this may be the time for Tord to start utilizing that Make Do ability to draw some cards. He's going to go ahead and get rid of that capture energy. Has a pretty set up board, not really prioritizing getting another basic Pokemon on the deck. And there we see the second Chino will be able to utilize
两只奇诺隶属做起来了。
Tord's board is developing really nicely here, Chip. Has the cards necessary to potentially put together a Gale Thrust at this point. Just needs to find a Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX in order to do that.
Definitely, and you're not even really pressured to find that Giratina. We've mentioned you don't have to find it this turn, right? You're not going to get a 1-hit KO on this anyway.
透的应该有
If
带
you
猜
do
特
get rid
能
of
的
that
吧？
special energy, you can hit for 300 damage, but Eternatus VMAX, of course, with a monstrous 340 HP, very difficult to take down for anything in 1 hit. We don't see Tord playing like the martial arts dojo that you'll see from these lists from time to time. Tord's not opting for any stadiums at all in his list. And we will see the VMAX on the bench, and that Karate Belt is active thanks to Matthias taking those first couple of prizes.
Yeah, we will at least see that be able to come up and swing for 150 damage with that Gale Thrust ability. That Rapid Strike Urshifu V in the active, already having an easy way to pivot in that Air Balloon. Tord really valuing Air Balloon in this deck, utilizing it a lot for those switching outs. As we also see that Tord is playing 4 copies of Switch 2, wants to have other abilities to pivot out of the active. I think Tord just thinking through what else to do, has already utilized both Make Do's, as we actually will see the Quick Ball come down. It's going to discard a Pokemon Communications from the hand, so Tord values
果然是猜了。
Giratina this turn. I like this play from Tord. Not only do you get
猜了
more
哪
weakness,
是不
you're gonna
猜
hit for more damage, but more
这
importantly,
是
you're
手
also
田
setting
斗能
Matthias
滑上来
back
直接打
with energy
300。
attachment. So if he wants to attack with this Eternatus
手
VMAX,
田双
he'll
五
need
滑
to
上来直接
commit
打
another
300，
energy
舒服。
just for that Eternatus VMAX to most likely go down via a knockout the following turn. And this also will set up the math to easily take a knockout with something like Gmax Rapid Flow next turn, as this
干
will be
太舒
dealing
服了
300
吧。
damage this turn, and then the following turn.
那如果下一回合又有老大，
active, and then maybe hit something like that Galarian Zigzagoon on the bench, and then all Tord is a boss's orders away from knocking out one of those 2 Crobat on the bench.
And Tord's actually going to go ahead and utilize this Gmax Rapid Flow, gets rid of this Galarian Zigzagoon on the bench.
他有插黑带，
Tord's game plan is pretty
干有
straightforward.
插黑带真的
Take the
好舒
knockout
服
on the
哦。
VMAX, You know, you've
他
already
在
taken
抢
the
到
one
不行
prize
哎、
on the Galarian Zigzagoon, and then all you need to do is find the ability to knock out one of these fighting weak Pokemon on the bench.
刚他这刚下一回合
two
又是一个
prizes. So
双
pretty
5， 然后又
straightforward,
直接
honestly,
触
for
发
Tord at
黑
this
带
point. And I like
Wow,
Tord's
sorry.
decision as well to go ahead and use Gmax Rapid Flow, plays around a potential Crushing Hammer from your opponent, right? And you can go ahead and take that prize, and you still have your Karate Belt active since you're only taking one prize as opposed to, you know, tying your opponent's 2 prizes.
And Matthias has a lot of options here. Could target down something like that Giratina if he does not want Tord reusing it during this turn. I think he's considering here even playing that Crushing Hammer. It just feels so bad to get rid of what is probably the worst attacking energy in Tord's list as that capture energy. Would much rather be getting rid of something like that Rapid Strike energy or that basic fighting energy. As we actually
哇，
see
直接
Matthias
动都不动，
opt to
直接
play
打哦
no supporters this turn is going to swing at this Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX for 150 damage, so still a
什么意
sizable
思啊？
amount
为什么
of
动都
damage,
不动
but
直
this
接
just
打？
opens the door up for Tord. Has so many potentials, needs to find one of those 4 switches in the deck, is going to go ahead and start making do. Getting it rid
我
of
到底
that
误会了
Air
什么？
Balloon
动
with
都
the
不
first
动
one.
直接
Second
打
one, we'll go ahead and get rid of Quick Ball. That bench is full. Tord does not need to find any more basics, is in a solid spot board-wise. I believe has not played any
是
one of his
不
four
是
switches,
一个
so it's
双
very likely here
5填
that
下
Tord
去
will be able
老
to
大就
find
结
the
束
cards
啦？
necessary in order to take this game. Still has not played a supporter yet, so also could utilize something like the Bird Keeper. But there we
哇
see
哦
the
亚
Cheryl
米
Lee, one of
我
card
干他
in
妈这一
Tord
拳
is
白打
going to heal all the damage off of this active VMAX, which makes me think that Tord has a switch in hand. He's not going to be utilizing Bird Keeper, but again, that pretty much sets
你
Matthias
娘
back
嘞！
the
亚米
entire
配
turn,
黑带也太 OP
especially
了
after
吧！
not playing any supporter cards from hand. Tord just needs to find something like that switch, can still utilize the Karate Belt, because Matthias took 2 prizes there. So another smart decision from Tord is actually going to go ahead and attach to that bench VMAX. So we are actually just going to see the Gale Thrust
Ooh,
deal
missed the
60
switch.
damage.
干他不打死
Did not
欸
find the switch there. So this opens up the door for Matthias to potentially put something together here as Tord
就是
not
不
having
打
a
死欸
explosive turn, especially going to be hitting this Crushing Hammer head. It's going to be big. It's going to set Tord back that energy attachment as Matthias has a few options to take.
Yeah, definitely. We've got the Marnie. You could go ahead and Boss's Orders something. I don't really like the Boss's Orders nearly as much since that Urshifu VMAX on the bench. You weren't able to knock it out anyway, which is
刚才
kind of
下面不
unfortunate,
丢
but,
是觉得这个能量
yeah, I think Matthias just
等一
gonna
下
have to kind of draw
刚才
through
那个
the
手
deck
上
here.
的
Let's
能
go
量
ahead
丢了
and
会
find
没
the
能量是
second
吗？
Urshifu VMAX, and I mean at this point Tord is in a really, really good spot. You're gonna be able to hit it pretty hard, the Urshifu VMAX as Matthias that is, but at this point, Tord is just a Rapid Strike energy and a Boss's Orders away from closing out this game.
Yeah, I think it's really going to be on Matthias to find that crucial Marnie card next turn. Tord will be able to
妈的
build the
期
hand
末
size
艺术
up
2
even
次
more
再
with
没
this
老
card
大
design,
那也
with
奇
the
怪了。
mid-do, getting rid of unnecessary pieces like another Urshifu V.
18色老大要来了。
Already has those 2 VMAX Pokemon set up, and again, while Tord did not do much that turn, it was crucial that he at
一个
least found
一个
that
一
Cheryl
个
to
连
set
级能
Matthias
量
back on
啊
track, right?
一个
If
老大
Matthias would be able to take a
结
knockout
束游
on
戏。
that Eternatus, or excuse me, on that Urshifu VMAX this turn, then Tord would be in a little bit of a tough spot, right? Tord could not win the game. There's no real way for him to take those prizes. Would need to find the Rapid Strike energy in addition to something like a Boss's Order. So again, it's still possible, but Bird Keeper is at least going to guarantee the knockout. Plus some more. Tord could also go for something like that Gmax Rapid Flow this turn to set up some math onto a Crobat V so that he doesn't even need Boss's Orders next turn, can just find one of those 2 remaining copies of the Rapid Strike energy left in deck.
Yeah, Tord has plenty of ways to try to close this game out, and you know Matthias is going to have to play to
看
his
3
outs
张
here.
养鸟
He's
人
definitely, I think, in
老大
a
去
little
哪
bit
里
of a
了？
tough spot. Tord is definitely the player I would favor in this exact position, but can't count Matthias out just yet. Eternatus VMAX, we've seen how powerful it's been over the last few months. You know, just effectively a stage 1 Pokemon, right? Being a VMAX, being able to deal 270 damage for just 2 energies is extremely powerful. As we do see that Rapid Strike
哇哦
energy come
这
down
边
from
直接
Tord, we're
敲
gonna see the Gmax Rapid Flow here.
直接烤
I
死
believe
啊能量
we
都
will.
不
If
喷
it targets that Crobat, then Tord has so many options to take this game in this case. As there we go. Gmax Rapid Flow, interestingly
喷了
enough, is also going to go ahead and smartly attack with this clean Urshifu V. And the reason I like this play a lot is you force now Matthias, if Matthias wants to take these prize cards on that bench turn to this,
哦
excuse
这
me,
个让
on
他
that
不
bench
敢上
Urshifu
来是吗？
VMAX, will need to utilize Boss's Orders and cannot reset Tord colossal hand size here, having 10 cards in hand, I believe, 11 actually, and this is going to be a very tough spot for Matthias. Starts to turn out with a Crushing Hammer draw that could just be a card to get discarded off something like Quick Ball. Looks like eyeing up playing down something like this Galarian Zigzagoon. Interesting choice from Tord to actually target the VMAX
打超
the
慢
active. It just opens up more options.
干
in
我
this
又
game.
想
So
睡
instead
觉
of
了，打的有
having
够
to
慢的
find。something like another Rapid Strike energy, now all you need is a way to pivot right out of the active. You just need to find one of your switch, or if this Urshifu VMAX gets knocked out in the active, you could just promote that Chinchino on the bench with an air balloon, and then all you need to find is a fighting energy or your Rapid Strike energy. So very smart play from Tord. It's going to open up even more options, as Quick Ball is going to find that Yveltal. The Tyus needs to find a weakness.
想睡觉了。
Find that. Not quite there, but does find the Marty, a big card to be able to reset
他应该是要
Tord's
拼
hand
一
size
张
down. I'm sure we're going to be seeing
弱
that
宝
supporter
吧
get played, especially with Matthias being unable to draw any more cards. But actually, Matthias is going to go with the research. Very interesting. Is going to respect the choice, but does not find that
什
weakness
么
card
都
energy.
没
I
有，
don't
投
think there's any options
降。
here. Is going to go ahead and scoop game number 1 up here. Tord is going to take that in a pretty dominating fashion. Again, as we said earlier, Giratina, such an important card in this matchup. You would think it gets tough, right, when your main factor in this matchup, weakness, is not able to be applied. But again, Giratina, so strong at being able to get rid of that weakness that the weakness guard energy provides and put yourself in such a solid position.
Yeah, definitely. I think the decision for Tord to go ahead and GMAX
看
Trapper
这个
flow
弱
that
宝
damage
拆掉
onto
好
the
亏哦。
Eternatus VMAX with the energy on it makes a ton of sense. It's the only thing with energy on Matthias' side of the board. It's the only thing he can possibly attack with on this turn. So by going ahead and putting that damage there, you make it much easier for yourself to try to close the game out. And even if your opponent does find the weakness guard energy, we've got that Giratina to fall back on, right? As long as you can find the scoop up net, you can go ahead and use Dimension Breach once again and discard that energy and still hit for weakness and be able to pick up that last knockout.
Yeah, Matthias definitely felt on the back foot that match. Chip, going to game 2, right? These players need to be able to win these sets in order to advance. Matthias, if he takes a game loss in game number 2, will be eliminated from the tournament. Is there anything different Matthias can do, or does this matchup just feel too uphill for him?
This matchup is definitely tough, and not only is the matchup itself tough, but you're playing against one of the best to ever do it in Tord. So, I mean, I think Matthias played very well in that game. Really just needs to be aggressive. I think that's going to be Matthias's game plan going into this one as well. Go first, try to get that first energy attachment, and see if you can pop off a little bit. Take a 2-prize knockout on Urshifu V, maybe. Maybe Tord gets a little unlucky with the start, right, and only gets one Urshifu in play. If you can target that down quickly, that could be really strong for you. So, yeah, it's definitely going to be on to Matthias to kind of push the advantage, try to really apply a lot of pressure and force Tord to find the answers.
Again, such a crucial game number 2 here. Matthias needs to win in order to push a game 3 and keep himself alive this tournament. We're ready to go ahead and get into game number 2. Let's throw it down to the players here. Action is
哦，
on
看
them.
小狗狗
Matthias
不
will
睡，
be
主播
opting
怎么敢
to
睡？
go ahead and start
看
the
神
game
仙
out
打
by
架
going first
啊！
here.
我去
It
尿
looks
尿
like, yep, there
感
we
觉
go.
这个无
Matthias
极
is
是
going
真
to
的要
start
被
things
虐
out
爆
going
了，
first.
偏
His
难
hand
赢啊！
is looking all right, but there's a lot of unplayable cards in the hand, like those 2 Crushing Hammer, Chip.
Yeah, definitely solid, but not the best. And I like this, I think, from Matthias. Just going to go ahead and start the Zigzagoon as opposed to the Urshifu, or excuse me, to the Eternatus V. You know, the Zigzagoon's math doesn't really help you pick up any KOs, I feel like, in this matchup. Maybe being able to deal 220 to an Urshifu V on turn 2, potentially. As we do see the Crobat top deck pretty nice there from Matthias. Can thin this Eternatus V back into the deck and grab, you know, maybe something like this Yveltal or even another Eternatus V. Try to thin those pieces out, find something else to bench so that you can draw even more off the Dark Asset. And the main thing you're looking for here is that turn 1 energy attachment so that you can be aggressive on turn 2 and start attacking very quickly with a Dread End.
Yeah, maybe regretting starting that Zigzagoon a little bit. 2 switch are in the prize card. So again, if Tord has the ability to take some time, get that board set up, it will not be in Matthias's benefit. Looking through the rest of the deck to see 2 dark energy.
看我看不懂这个无极要怎么赢呢？
However, are in the deck. This is a pretty sizable deck. Chip only going to be drawing 3 cards off this dark asset. So this is going to be a big draw.
不过他们这无极打铁人仓也是挺有想法的，带个芙蓉，带个朋友手册，有机会直接穿掉2只盾狗。
Assuming there's no energy found, what do you think Matthias's best line of play is going forward, especially being on the back foot?
You're definitely going to have to try to work his
来吃
power
NM
accelerator, but
巧
let's
克
hope that
力，
doesn't have
今
to
天
happen.
今天买
Oh,
的，这是什么
unfortunate,
NM 巧
no
克力？
energy draw there from Matthias.
哎
I mean, I think it's
脆
gonna have to
心
be
牛
trying
奶
to
巧
pivot
克
into
力
a。turn of using energy, or excuse me, power accelerator to accelerate that.
啊，没有手田啊，下面走得更
attachments
远，
here.
走得远到不行啊，远到不行啊。啥又拿那无极？
Such as that Machino to start getting that line set up Can also search out again like he did in game 1 that Jirachi.
sayonara那
Rising Stellar
五
Wish,
鸡
especially when you know your opponent is not going to be able to put on serious aggression the following turn. You could just utilize Jirachi to get pretty much 2 guaranteed Stellar Wishes in while you're building up your board. But Tord, we know he's very experienced, is going to find the best possible target off of this level ball. On Matthias' side, though, does at least have a pretty decent response in the double crushing hammer, the guaranteed VMAX for next turn. Great ball to find maybe some more Pokemon. And of course, that Marnie, again, such a disruptive supporter card as we do see Tord go for the same strategy in game 1. Level ball going to find that Jirachi as quick ball here. He's going to go ahead and discard that Mew, obviously in there for that mirror match. Also good against some other Pokemon in the standard format. We'll be able to grab that Urshifu and a big Marnie.
我就问你无极没手田怎么打？那么无极玩个无极没手田的时候，真的只有痛苦而已。
No Minchino either, so Tord definitely looking for some more pieces to get things going.
啊，还是没能量。
Able to find one of those copies of Switch, definitely a huge draw. Will allow him to pivot into that Eviltal and try to find the turn of Power Accelerator potentially here, as long as
还是没能量。
very solid. As you see, Tord is able to capture energy down the Snorlax. We see an air.
下面会不会博士起来没能量，直接按投降啊？如果下面起来博士起来没能量，我就直接按投降。
Urshifu in play. So this is the situation I was talking about. If Matthias could have gotten that turn 1 energy attachment, you have an opportunity.
哎呀，林飞撤退了，叫出来放前面啊！ 还要插制服啊！
Did not quite work out in this instance because that would have been very strong if he could have pulled it off.
Yeah, would have had to find a lot of pieces off that.
哦，他要前面打一个填一下，填一颗啊，有了有了，填起来填起来。
See that Crobat is going to draw the hand up to 6, finds a couple key cards like that Darkness Energy.
金花后面，金花后面，后面，金花后面。啊，就这样。啊，不怕被玛丽哦。就这样。
Action will be back on Tord, able to keep that hand this time.
就是因为
We've seen many times Tord.
金花后面有可能等一下被他穿120吗？
I'm going to basically reset that Gormandize. Again, such a powerful card in this deck as a one of. Super powerful indeed. As we do see the Urshifu VMAX going to get grabbed, so Tord able to establish that very quickly on turn number 2. The Snorlax will have to find a way to get out of the active, but again, Tord can just be content taking this turn. To Gormandize, we see another Urshifu V get down. That capture energy most likely going to Chino to start getting the board set up, and then you see it come down. Nice little shiny card from Hidden Fates. You'd love to see all those cool, cute artworks from the recent expansions.
Definitely, and I mean, I kind of when we saw that VMAX come out, I was kind of thinking, oh, are we going to see a change of pace from Tord? Is he going to go a little aggressive here and try to take the first prizes? But Tord had me fooled. I think you know what we've seen pretty much always from Tord in these spots with his deck is just playing it slow. He is fine to play the long game, fine to take turns to set up. Fine to just sit behind this Snorlax and Gormandize until it gets knocked out, so that
他们的无极王跟我想的还是不一样哎，
like the Karate Belt get
都是扭的一笔的。
下
面刚才这个手牌完全可以动，他完全选择不动哎。 到底为什么？
To draw through the deck as fast as possible, and the good thing again that we haven't really utilized or rather talked about is Chinchino is great at getting rid of those cards you don't want to see in the late game, something like a reset stamp.
为什么我都看不懂？
Such a powerful effect of
是不是我们看得不够深，所以就都看不懂？
A pretty thick line of that Urshifu VMAX. You really don't need to get 3 Urshifu VMAX.
上回合博士不好吗？
All 4 of your Urshifu Vs, so Tord is going to utilize that make do ability to draw.
不好吗？
We do see a nice Marnie draw off of Matthias's Dark Asset is down 3 of those 4.
刚为什么这个锤子都感觉不想要锤那个2个基本无能量啊？哦，直接热血开敲吗？刚会不会又被拆掉啊？你的8成要被拆掉了。
Definitely. So Matthias here, I mean, you're taking this first prize, but I don't really know how good you're feeling about it. Matthias had an opportunity if he had drawn a little better off that dark asset, could have maybe chased this Urshifu VMAX on the bench and hit into it maybe a turn before.
哦，果然是没什么在打无极，感觉这边应该可以细节可以细一下。
something like that to heal the Urshifu VMAX, but was not quite able
打
to
了
find
田
the
冷，
pieces
然
on
后
the
2
dice
只都
to
不
send
进
Pokemon
化，
energy
就
or
算
the
能进
boss
化
to
也不
do
进
that.
化。
Had to just go with the Marnie, and I mean, you got to play the hand you're dealt in the Pokemon trading card game. So he had to roll with the weakness guard energy attach. And I think if you're gonna draw an energy there, the weakness guard is definitely the one you want to find because it forces Tord to maybe chase after that Giratina, maybe a little bit quicker than he would like to.
Yeah, there's 2 lines of play there with attaching the weakness guard to the active. You do also open that bench space up for Tord, taking that
养鸟
knockout.
人
And we do know that Tord is playing 4 copies of stuff like that scoop up net in the deck. So we could actually see something like this Jirachi even get picked up out of play to open up a space for that Giratina to get rid of the weakness guard energy. Tord's definitely going to want to find at this turn, promoting that Urshifu VMAX off the Bird Keeper will also draw some more cards here for Tord. Have to imagine at least wants to get something off like a Gale Thrust, can follow that up next turn if he can find something like the Giratina with a G-Max Rapid Flow to take a knockout, also apply pressure to maybe this bench.
看这个连击熊，那打无极好，是不是有点舒服啊？不过这个落把没拆掉的话，又挺不舒服的。先打后面吗？直接打后面吗？ 难道是2个无极直接给他120？120？
onto the active, so going to give him some nice pivoting options for next turn. This Urshifu VMAX 330 HP is not going to go down to a full bench dread.
2个无极直接给他120。
Also the nice thing here, if you do opt to go for a G-Max Rapid Flow,
直接33拿。
play for something like a Cheryl the following turn. We saw how useful that was for Tord in the game before, but it's actually going to go ahead and attach the Karate Belt to the bench. Chip, are we going to see something like a G-Max
干那个黑带真的好恶心哦！落后以后真的好恶心，好恶心
Yeah, I
哦！
think based on what we saw Tord do in game number 1, wants to utilize G-Max Rapid Flow when he's got the energies necessary to do it. Of course, knows Matthias
先拿
plays
120，然后拿1
4
奖吗？
copies of Crushing Hammer, so I think it's a good turn to do it. And we see kind of the same thing as last time, where you're able to knock out 1 3 prizer, knock
还
out
是直接
a 1
120
prizer, and
120 3
then
奖
all
3
you do is
奖。
target down a Crobat in the late game to close out the game. Definitely a strategy Tord can set up here, and I have to imagine this is
感觉
gonna give
120
him that
120 3奖
default,
3奖
gets
有
rid
机
of
会。
that free retreat option. Actually, no. Gonna go ahead and target down 2 Crobats. And I like this as well because you have that Karate Belt on the bench. You actually,
Why?
by taking the prize on the Evil
Fucking
you turn
why?
off your own Karate Belt. So this actually, I have changed my mind. This is the best play for sure.
让我想一下啊。
Yeah, I was thinking maybe you would target something down like that at bench to turn this VMAX as well.
先爽穿120 120。
I think the main
然后呢？
never surprises me at this point. I mean, he always has the routes of play.
然后呢？我怎么还是想不到？
Target that Yveltal down. Will he target the 2 VMAXs down?
透的奇洛利鼠呢？
And this even opens up a play to ignore this turn of this VMAX in the
被码起来了吧？被码起来了。
This turn rather, and G-Max Rapid Flow and take another 4 prize turn utilizing that Karate Belt, and then just needs to Gale Thrust, excuse me, that bench Crobat.
再填一个双子能量，直接120 120。 他这里这样打的重点应该是他要让黑带触发吧？但是他就是要让黑带触发，这个黑带好 OP 哦，就是要让黑带触发。OP 黑带。
Play a lot differently, utilize stuff like Karate Belt, Scale Thrust. This deck has tons of options already, and Tord is going to start things off with this Stellar Wish. Is going to allow him to find those trainer cards out of the deck. Wants to at least get something off like a Gale Thrust. Could also go for a G-Max Rapid Flow. Reset Stamp is going to be the grab, so that can help him set some stuff back later on in the game as we do see Bird Keeper, such a powerful supporter, allowing you to draw cards and pivot into these Urshifu VMAXs to get the full effect off of also set up something like that G-Max Rapid Flow. Here is the first to make do. It's going to go ahead and get rid of Pokemon Communication. Feels pretty confident in the board right now. Again, Tord having so many options to play. At minimum, can at least apply some pressure to this VMAX. Also has the ability to do some other things as we do see the Giratina is going to come down and get.
干这个熊太凶了啦！哇操嘞！啊妈妈凶的跟什么一样？哈，没有连技能，直接滑上来打300。
Gonna make sure to scoop up net that Giratina first to open the bench space up toward. Such a world-class player, Chip knows exactly how
干
to
这个
maneuver
弱宝
this
被拆
matchup
好不舒
and
服哦。
maneuver this deck.
Yeah, I mean, and I think the thing is,
下面也没有其他特能特能嘞，就这个特能，被拆的好不舒服哦。他又要再手填回来才可以再打。
Hundreds and hundreds of damage in play on your opponent's side of the field. You haven't taken any knockouts yet. Your opponent is ahead on the prize race, so technically ahead in the game. But I mean, if we're looking at these two boards, Tord is very, very, very far ahead in this one.
And Crushing Hammer from Matthias will reset that capture energy, so it is a pretty relevant energy in the case that Tord would only need to attach a basic fighting next
这边
turn,
码吧，
utilize
码吧
that rapid flow,
还是
and
不码？
Tord
还有两个
again,
老大，还有两个老大，
prizes, wants to get the full usage out
还有
of
两个老大
that
可以不用码。
karate belt, just gives him more options right now. You have
哇
the
哦
VMAX,！
啊你啊嘞！啊
Max
对面
flow knockout, Tord
这个
just
弱宝
running
敢
so
插
close
吗？
up, utilizing these plays that just give him the most options.
干这弱宝是不是一定得插啊？
You want to open up as many keys to
干
victory
好
as
尴尬
possible.
哦！
Really just showing us how it's done as quick.
弱宝插后面。
But Matthias does find the other weaker energy. We may be seeing a big Crobat here.
抽3张看有没有换位。
有。It does find it.
Huge draw, the last switch remaining. I mean, hey, I think Matthias knows if I attack with this
不怕滑上去打90 310 330哦，不怕上去打90会死欸。
It was not super likely to draw the switch, but I think Matthias recognizing that is my best way to try to win this game is by going into this clean Eternatus VMAX. That's exactly what Matthias was able to do. Finds the switch off the Crobat, pays off hugely, and now onto Tord.
干，我怎么觉得要被滑上来打300啊
？Perfect time to play that one of copy of Cheryl.
Oh, Chip, if we
Oh
see
my
it,
god.
Deals so much damage. Matthias understanding what a crucial play, and the Giratina as Tord acknowledging.
你娘嘞！啊，这个黑带出发，一直压米，一直压米，压起来诶！
Actually get out of the Cheryl in this case as we just see 60 damage.
干你娘嘞！77777777耶！你娘嘞！哦，这个压米，哦，这个压米，我有听到那个无极心碎的声音呢。我有听到无极心碎的声音呢。
Wants to utilize those to try to put together these big prize turns. There we see that Dread End going to deal a massive 270 damage to this Urshifu VMAX. Not quite enough to take the knockout, but Tord is going to definitely be in the driver's seat. This match
240还不会死吗？
wants to grab some cards to utilize with Make Do. There is the Bird Keeper. That's going to guarantee the knockout onto this Eternity.
干又换上来，哦你娘嘞！
Is there any way Matthias can come back? It just seems like Tord is shutting the doors so quickly on Matthias.
干他让黑带一直出发这件事情实在是好 OP 哦。他现在换上来滑，另外一只滑上来打300吗？
I mean, there's technically a path back in for Matthias, but I mean, even
他应该不会让他
the
死吧
basic fighting energies, and there's just so much damage in play. It is definitely looking difficult for Matthias, but the game is still not over. Tord's got to play it out. You know, there's always, we saw yesterday, you know, people make mistakes all the time. There's always the opportunity for a misclick somewhere along the way, right? So, I mean, you don't ever expect something like that from Tord, but things can definitely happen. And
感觉连级能量一直没有出来耶，感觉是吧？是要倒啦。
They, you know, you got to stick around and play to the outs, but
投了。
maybe Matthias thinks a little better of it and says it's pretty unlikely.
直接投了。
Let's go ahead and dip out of here.
新的无极没能量。
On to the next round of the losers bracket.
这叫连击熊屌打欸，干这个屌打方式也是好屌哦，干那个亚米好屌哦。
You don't have that many options to begin with, let alone when your opponent puts on pressure to everything in board. It felt like Tord had so many options and maneuvered that matchup perfectly. So again, congratulations.
干连击熊配黑带，然后控奖励，这个实在是。
We're going to be following players throughout the losers bracket today.
干总不能叫无极都不要拿奖励吧？
Right now, it's going to be David.
等死也不是办法欸。
Up against Azul, we see here. This is a big match. The winner of this match is going to.
哎，速销王又要跟透再打一次嘞。 Again 呢，各位同学， 昨天他们2个在胜部遇到今天2个在败部遇到
One of the most accomplished players from North America. So many accomplishments as we see on the screen. Top finishes at international champions, 5-time regional champion. David, a little bit, as we said, a newer player running that ADP Zacian deck. Azul gonna be playing that.
那个是因为透德喜欢奇诺利组啦，真是。好扯哦，不是干哦，我真的是在看神仙打架。我看这个连击熊可以控成这样子，实在是好舒服啊！那个亚米真的舒服到不行哎。但如果是我，如果我是无极，我可能快中风嘞。
A key card definitely going to be the Tech Zamazenta V. I think that came in huge in their game 3 yesterday. We got to watch that play out, and it just got to a situation where Mikey was unable to hit through that Zamazenta V's Dauntless Shield ability. So we'll see if David can play himself into another situation just like that, and what Azul could do to play around that potential out for David.
但连击熊妈打完能量全喷，然后那回合亚米实在是阴娘嘞。
Just from what we saw yesterday, right? We followed this same matchup, the same 60 cards playing against each other, right? The big thing there that we saw in game 1, I believe, when Mike was able to win that game, was how crucial it was when David benched those one-prize Pokemon, like that Cryogonal playing in the list, like that Oranguru. It just opens up such an easier path to victory, allowing you to knock out this Arceus-style Gunpolkia, then one of those one prizes, then taking an easy 2 prizes on maybe a support Pokemon.
刚才只要让黑带触发以后，实在是有够鸡掰的我终于看到3神了。我刚才还没看到三神的对局，我根本就没看到，我就吃咸酥鸡，然后3神就倒了。哇哦，这个舒服，这个舒服。他是带山水的正常山水，先机丢钢冷。
Definitely a solid start for David.
好不丢啊！
Get that water energy attachment. You know your opponent is not
丢老大，
hammer, so you don't have to worry about that getting discarded potentially. And you can go ahead and quick ball for a Zacian here. Get off a big intrepid sword. Draw yourself up some cards.
这个配率应该蛮好记的哦。
In a decent spot here to maybe play this game out the exact same way we saw him play out game number 3 against Mike, where the only Pokemon he had in play was a ADP, a Zacian, and then eventually the Zamazenta. So I'll be interested to see if that's the line David goes for here. Already has that turn 2 Altered Creation lined up with the Metal Energy in hand. That is, of course, unless Azul.
这个配率蛮好记的。
Yeah, as silly as it sounds, I think the big key in this match
那个几何雪花是我以前3神有放过，那张几何雪花我三神有放过。那时候打小丑的时候，我觉得几何雪花。 有奇效。
There is no way that Azul can put together 280 damage in just 2 turns, pretty much. So, gonna start things off with a Stellar Wish. Quick Ball's gonna get rid of those tech Pokemon in this deck, right? That draws GX, and therefore those Psychic type decks, like the Mewtwo and Mew Firebox deck we were able to feature yesterday. It's gonna be able to search out something like this Rapid Strike Urshifu V if that's in the deck. Could also find one of the support Pokemon. Azul obviously wants to avoid playing down those cards like the Dene GX, like Crobat GX that this Arceus-style Gunpolkia deck loves to prey on.
没错，几何雪花。
Absolutely. So we'll see what Azul is going to grab here. Definitely taking time.
几何雪花开完狙他之后可以打40，其实我真的是觉得也是蛮强。打40可以 C 锁道具，这已经接近打50可以锁道具了，怎么会不强？对不对？想一想合理啊，强到不行。
A high percentage of your energy. You can take a knockout in a spot you maybe wouldn't.
3神开完狙他，然后控奖励印章的时候来个几何雪花，好像真的挺赞的。直接玛丽。这里我刚才先机是会丢钢人，让墓地有个钢人可以做 UB。 哇，这边舒服直接手填一个豆，然后开局场，手填一个钢人开局场。哦，玛丽上来了。如果不要被321拿的话，这只智慧星是一定不会下的。这只智慧星100%不会下。
As David is not going to utilize that quick ball, instead going to go for a Marnie, does find a solid set of cards, the Rusted Sword to attach to that Zacian, has some support Pokemon for the following turn, but I think David is just going to be content taking the turn to utilize Alter Creation GX chip, as we've explained before. possibly the best GX attack ever printed on a tag team card.
One of the best attacks, I mean, outside of tag teams, just in the game in general, right? Altered creation letting you take that.
他想要让他的目的有一个老大啊，
boosting your
这也是一个
damage
这
for the
这也
remainder
是一
of
个
the
想
game
法
for。all of your Pokemon, an absolutely insane effect. We've never seen anything like it, and it's no surprise that as long as Cosmic Eclipse has been in the standard format, Arceus Dialga Palkia has been a threat to be reckoned with.
Yeah, looks like action on Azul. Pokemon Communication is a great card you want to see. Will allow Azul to find that Urshifu VMAX if he so chooses to. We obviously don't know what the rest of the hand looks like, but there it is. The Urshifu VMAX coming down into play. Will allow Azul to deal that
而且他还有带
damage
盾狗
from Gale Thrust if he is able to find the cards.
光是
like
有盾
Switch,
狗
but
顶
we
着
see
连
him
击
actually
熊
discard a
他也
switch
是挺
off
痛
that
苦
quick
的。
ball, which makes me think the rest of that hand is very solid. We actually see him opt to go for the escape route here.
Wow.
A very interesting line of play that's going to allow
高
him to
距
deal
离
the
又要被
damage to
划上来
Musashi
120
and
120
instead
嘞，
of this Arceus Dialga Palkia. What do you think about this play,
蛮
Jim?
不舒服
I
的
kind。of like it. I mean, David put this rusted sword onto the active, so he's very limited in switch options. Of course, with the release of battle styles, basically
那
all
下面
of
这
the
个动不
ADP
了工具
lists
怪好像一
have
定要
kind of
下哦。
opted away from the switch cards that we normally would see and tried to tech in those escape ropes. We actually see
丢
David
2个连
is
连
still
击能
playing
量
with
也
3
好
copies
亏
of
哦。
switch here, but is going to be forced to dig for one of those pieces to get an attack off here, since he
这里
did
敢码
attach
吗？
this
这里
rusted
敢
sword.
码吗？
Yeah,
码
so
了
interesting things to
不
point
下
out.
工具
Azul
怪
is。going to utilize G-Max Rapid Flow right away instead of maybe going for something like a Gale Thrust. Wants to try to string those together as quickly as possible, as we do see a Marnie get played. It's going to find some key cards here for David. David, excuse me, has the Zamazenta, as we pointed out, such a crucial card in this matchup. It looks like only 2 switch in the deck, so this is where we see most Arceus Dialga Pokédex are playing those 3 copies of Switch. 4, excuse me, but David is going for a little bit less, so could be punished here if he is unable to find that Switch. And he's actually going to get punished for attaching that rusted sword.
这个剑插下去变不能用，
And it's going to
哇！
essentially give Azul an
这个剑
extra
就
turn
不要
here.
插
You
就
gotta
好了，
go
插这个
here
剑有个
if
屌
Azul
用
will get an
啊！
extra turn to apply some damage pressure and build your board up.
看这个剑插这个剑有个屌用啊！
There's really no benefit, I think, to having the rusted sword in play in this matchup. It's really here for those tag team matchups, being able to let you pick up one-hit KOs on, tag team Pokemon, mainly the Mewtwo and Mew, opposing ADPs in the ADP mirror match. But, when it comes to this matchup, it really can kind of be a liability since it doesn't allow you to attach an air balloon, which we see David was able to draw into, but unable to attach.
Yeah, once a tool card is
干
on
这个
Pokemon,
剑
it is stuck
这
there.
个
Can't
剑
change that,
唉
and I'm sure David very
我觉得这个
frustrated
剑
that
插下
that
去有点
was
关
the
键的，
flaw
对
and
对
was
连击熊
unable
插这把
to
剑是要
get
干
something
嘛？
off like an ultimate Ray,
这
which
个
I
要
think would
插几口
definitely
懒
put the
觉的。
tempo in his favor as we do see Air Balloon come down in addition to a martial arts dojo, and there is the 3rd Rapid Strike Energy.
干
as
这回合
Professor's research
这回
will
合
get
三
rid
神
of
没动，
some
真
other
的真的
cards
走
off.
太
They
远了
actually
啦，
not play the Marnie with David's pretty sizable hand. Interesting
太白
choice.
痴了啦！
But I think Azul just prioritizing the card draw, wants to draw into as many cards as possible here. Has the guaranteed knockout on to the active with Gale Thrust. Will be able to apply pressure there. And because David was forced to play the Dene down chip, I don't know if this Zamazenta is going to be able to put in as much work as David wants to.
Definitely. I really would have loved to have seen David go for that Zamazenta super early on, but also at the same time, Azul had to put his own Dedenne GX in play here, so, I mean, you definitely can't count David out at this point. We're just, a boss's orders, altered creation, plus
还
a
敢
Mawile
插
with
剑
another
啊！
boss's orders away from David being able to close this game out.
干
And
他
that's
这个
something I
剑到底要
definitely
干
think
嘛？
I
还
would
敢
love to
插
see
剑
David
啊
go！ for in this situation. Azul has a pretty sizable hand here. We haven't seen anything like a quick ball played, which I think Azul would utilize to discard things like Crobat or Dedenne from hand to play around a potential Mawile. So I think this is
没
probably
事
about
摇把
as good
剑
a
就
time
想要
as
插
any
个
to go
剑
for that
啊
captivating
倒
wing.
地了吧？
Captivating Wing, such a powerful ability.
Oh,
We
yeah.
see so much play in this, reminiscent of the Captivating Pokepuff released a while ago in Steam Siege. We've seen abilities like this a bunch of times throughout the history of the Pokemon trading card game. Being able to search out your opponent's hand, find specific cards. It's a very cool concept that you love to see, as we do see the Jirachi's going to pivot out of the active with the switch. We do see that Rapid Strike Energy, which means Gale Thrust is online and active, is going to be dealing that full effect for 150 damage as the great catcher
Oh my god，夏威尔哦，120要结束了吗？哇，连填人都没填到。不要让他填了。
From Azul, able to take the only threat on David's side out of play, and it is very difficult at this point with this specific hand for David really to do much.
盾狗要开顶了吗？
Zacian V and probably try to find yourself, you know, the pieces to find a boss's orders, which is going to involve you using Dead A Change. You also have the Great Catcher out in deck. We're going to see the Mawile. Let's see if there are any of those support Pokemon sitting in Azul's hand. Sure enough, Captivating Wink gonna hit that to Dead A GX as well as another Rapid Strike Urshifu. Bring those guys down to the bench. So it'll kind of be onto Azul to close the game out on this coming turn, I feel like, assuming David is able to, you know, get this knockout. But actually, interestingly enough, gonna attach to the Zamazenta here. Zamazenta, even though you're getting boosted damage from even though you're getting boosted damage from the Altered Creation, the Dene GX is resistant to metal, so would not be able to pick up the KO. So I feel like the play from David here is just to kind of try to wall behind this Zamazenta a little bit and maybe try to build your hand size back up.
Yeah, and I think more importantly, wants to get rid of that Rapid Strike energy on Azul's active, because that way Azul would have no way to close out the game. The following turn is the main thought, as we are going to see the Marnie get grabbed off of the Eldegoss, utilizing that to grab any supporter out of this card pile as Tool Scrapper. Again, another interesting inclusion in David's list. Plays a bunch of interesting copies of cards, like even that one reset stand, as does find that Chaotic also can remove that Martial Arts Dojo from play. And I think we're going to see an Assault Tackle is also not even setting up a 2-hit knockout onto this Urshifu VMAX. We'll have to attack 3 times in order to finish that thing off.
Yeah, kind of crazy to say that if you're attacking after an Altered Creation, you're still not setting up a 2-hit KO. Zamazenta definitely quite a bit weaker of an attacker compared to Zacian, but where it really does shine is that ability in Dauntless Shield, and that's where we're going to have to see Azul try to play around in this spot. Was limited to just 4 cards and has all of those support Pokemon in play, so there's a good chance that we could see exactly what just happened. Just has to pass the turn, and we'll see yet another attack here from the Zamazenta.
Yeah, at the same time, David not really threatening anything with this hand. It's pretty weak. Azul's got a few turns to make something happen. Wants to get that Urshifu out of the action.
这个大者啊下去实在是有点闪，是真的。没办法，应该是奖励卡拿起来的，避也避不掉。
There's switch options, but here we see Pokemon communication, so it will be able to find Azul a card out of the deck. But again, that bench is full,
会不会有亚米啊？亚米
or something else to free up a bench spot. Only has 1 target to get out of play in that Jirachi.
剩一个连击人，亚米哦没有，
grabbing something out and is going to have to pass the turn over. You hate to see it.
直接敲到死。
will be able to take a knockout, and then on top of that, Azul is still in an alright spot. We'll have the ability to Stellar Wish next turn. If Azul can find the pieces to get that last Rapid Strike energy in play and the boss's orders, even with Azul gonna be down to just 1 more turn essentially, right? Your opponent's now threatening the game the following turn with something like a boss's orders in combination with the small while if 1 more Pokemon gets played down. You still have a fair shot, right? You still have a fair shot to put yourself in a position to win this game.
Yeah, I mean, David only needing to knock out Jirachi at this point to take the final 2 prize cards. So it's really going to be on to Azul this turn, I feel like. You either got to try to get that Jirachi out of play with a scoop net, or just go for the win. You need to find the Rapid Strike energy, plus the boss's orders, or potentially that Karate Belt. This is huge here, and Azul playing it before the Stellar Wish. Does that mean, yes, indeed, he has the boss's orders? Azul, after doing nothing for multiple turns here, cards to win the game. That's absolutely insane.
My God！ 我好像很卡，我卡，殊不知又是黑带。
Huge turn for Azul there. Seemed like he was in a bad spot.
又是黑带，他是不是在讲这个？
Yeah, I feel like that's the Azul bluff there.
口气很像。
Felt like he had nothing in hand, right? When you're
又是黑带。
Meanwhile, Azul was fooling us all, had all the pieces pretty much in hand.
你娘嘞，黑带，你
needed the energy, the Karate Belt. So I think it was actually
神仙黑带。
on that Zamazenta to take a knockout to activate.
全图收起来，全图收起来。
A very smart play from Azul.
黑带 OP。
A close game there though. Came down to the wire chip. adjustments for any of these players? Is there anything they could do to put themselves in a better spot? Or do you think that game pretty much unfolded how both players wanted to, just maybe a turn too early?
Yeah, I mean, I think if David has the opportunity like he had in that game, I really want to see him try to commit more to the Zamazenta strategy without putting multiple Pokemon in play. Sure, that gives Azul the option, of course, to attack with the Rapid Strike Urshifu V, but that is much, much weaker than the VMAX. It has way less HP, and you're discarding the energy potentially attached to it as well. So I mean, David had an awesome opportunity to go for that play, decided to go a different route, and obviously did not work out for him in this game. We'll see if he makes that adjustment moving into game number 2.
Wise words, Chip. We're ready to go ahead and get into game number 2 between both these players. Again, so crucial, being a loser's bracket match. David's got to win this game or he will be eliminated from the tournament. Looks like Azul will be going ahead and starting things out, going second. David obviously taking the loss game 1, so we'll be able to choose whether or not to go first or second. Is going to opt to go ahead and go first. This Archie style Poké deck,
刚
Chip
刚
wants to go first. It
对
wants
啊，
to get
三
the
神
ultimate
插了那
as
把
soon
剑，让
as
他
turn
自己
two.
爆开，爆成这个样子。
Definitely, and David's hand is not the best
啊
here. Oh,
可
but a
怜
Cherish
啊
Ball top deck
有带
does
盾狗
bail
应该
him out a
是
little bit.
应
Will
该是
get
算
the
是好打的
attachment onto an Arceus Dialga Palkia, and of course you've got that Intrepid Sword
有带
option.
盾狗算
Like I
好
said,
打。
I really want to see David go for that Zamazenta line in this game, as we do see the quick ball drawn off of this Intrepid Sword, so he'll have that option. We'll have to see if that's what he opts to go with in this spot.
The big top deck in Cherish Ball allows David to get that
刚刚
turn
你觉得
1
主播快不
attachment
行了？
to that Arceus style gun. Palkia again wants to get Alter Creation up as quickly as possible. As Azul, interesting choice.
刚刚
to
一定是
not
刚才
go
玩
ahead
主过头
and
太累了，
start
干
something like that Urshifu V had 2 in hand, is going to utilize Crobat here to draw even more cards, fill that hand up back to 6 Dark Assets. Such a powerful ability in the standard format. Azul has a few options, but is actually going to go ahead and switch into this Urshifu V. Wants to prioritize getting some chip damage in with something like the Strafe. Can deal some solid damage to the Zacian, maybe set up for a potential knockout later on in the game. As we also will see Quick Ball grab a Jirachi, so this is a perfect target for Azul to go ahead and strafe into.
Definitely. I mean, Azul could have also switched into the
换
Jirachi
位
to utilize the Stellar Wish right away, but I like this option as well. Get some damage in play, which is definitely something that could be relevant here. So let's see, hear from David. Is he going to go for the Zamazenta line of play? We see that is the thing that he's eyeing up.
三神这边的操作算
Remembering
是
back to that game against Mike,
算是都还算蛮好预判的
recognizing that Azul and Mike are playing
连基兄那边真的就都
knew
不
how
熟
good the Zamazenta was in that instance for
甘
him.
普
So
迪
like to see him
手
playing to this
田
out, and gonna have to play this Marnie, and gonna have to
玛丽
find one of the switch cards to get off the Altered Creation here.
Yeah, only playing 3 Switch in the list, a little bit less than most of these lists. but
Switch
finds
舒
2
服
copies
There you go.
off of the Marnie. Hey, never punished. Finds the switch.
大嘴蛙应该先
to
不
get
下
this
四
Altered
张
Creation
四
off.
张卡不
One
看
of the most powerful attacks in the game. I would say the most powerful GX attack right now out of the tag team Pokemon. As Action will be back on Azul. David is going to be dealing 30 more damage and taking an extra prize card every time a Pokemon gets knocked out, as Azul will find a scoop up net off of that Stellar Wish. Is going to utilize that right away to get the Jirachi out of the active. Is going to go into this Urshifu V without the energy on it, and it's going to be perfect. Has the air balloon in hand. The Pokemon communications will allow Azul to find that Urshifu VMAX and start attacking as soon as this turn.
Definitely very solid. Gonna get that pivot into the VMAX to
金
go
花
ahead
后
and
面
get a big swing off here. And also has a research to go along with it, so can continue to establish the board. We see from David has a very strong hand. Energy plus boss's orders, pretty much all you really want to see as the ADP player on your turn after you just used Altered Creation when your opponent has things like
哇
Crobat
感觉
and
下面
Infinite
其实
and
这边蛮
play.
舒服的
We do
欸
see Azul able to find that extra
三
energy.
神
Gonna go ahead and go for
三
the
神
G-Max
苍
Rapid
响
Flow.
盾
Wants to
狗
set up some damage on a
然后
couple
其
of
他
different
打死都
Pokemon
不
here.
下
And we'll see David gonna go ahead and eye up this Crobat and take these 3 prize cards. And this also, you know, does a few things here. It makes it so it's much more difficult
好舒服
for
哦
Azul to
舒
ever
服
draw, you know, through his deck
舒
more
舒服
efficiently,
服
right? Because he really is gonna want to avoid putting the
盾
damage
狗要
in
顶
play.
到底喽
Yeah, a big time draw off that Marnie. Drew into pretty much the perfect hand there. Boss's orders and energy. As you said, Azul really cannot safely play down something like the Dene. Obviously, something like the Mawile with Captivating Wink could go ahead and grab that, but I think David is going to just prioritize utilizing Zamazenta to the fullest ability here, as David
黑
will
带
take
又要
the
来了
first
吗
3 prize cards of the game. Azul
不对
is still
三
a
神
solid
少
spot, right? This
150
ADP in the active will have 10 HP remaining if it takes something like a Gale Thrust, but the
应
more
该是
important thing
先
to
填
really
一
look
个
at this
能
point
滑
is
上来
Zigzagoon
打
can
150，可
finish
是会被
that
盾狗
off,
顶
being
掉，
able to deal 10
所以他只
damage
能填
anywhere
基本
with
豆。
that headbutt tantrum. Azul just eyeing up
只
the
能填
options,
基
has
本
several
豆。
options to go with here, has the pivoting out with his active Urshifu V with the air balloon, has the ability to hit with something like a G-Max Rapid Flow the following turn, but we see the active energy attachment and the boss's orders. If Azul has the Fighting Arts Dojo, he does, which means this will be just enough damage to take the knockout on the Zashi V and switch into something like that Mimikyu, which can give up only 2 prize cards with that Alter Creation boosted effect. What a smart play from Azul, really utilizing that, and more importantly, is starting to build
刚刚
up
连
this
吉
V
雄是
on
没
the
有
bench.
没有得进化，
Yeah,
是不是？
definitely very
啊，这
well
么刚好
timed out, very
哇
well
塞
mapped out as well for Azul, able to
好不
figure
舒
out
服
that
哦，要拿
perfect
这2
match
奖
to
哎，好不
exactly
舒服，好不舒
220
服，
damage to the Zamazenta.
不
David's
舒
kind of in an interesting spot
服
here. You could bench the Zacian V because you have the Zamazenta that's a wall.
要拿
Your
这2
opponents,
奖吗？
can't really hit into it with anything besides an Urshifu V. And if they ever attack with the Urshifu V and you power up the Zamazenta, you just take the knockout with Zamazenta for the game. So that could have been an interesting option, but as we actually see, David had no energies left in the deck. So wisely choosing not to put the Zacian V into play, wants to make sure that if it comes into play, it's going to be on a turn where you're putting a bunch of energies on it.
Yeah, exactly. Draws into some nice draw supporters off the
有没有
prizes.
基本
He's
豆
down to 1 prize
填
card.
后
This
面
could be
滑
a
上来的
great turn
150？
where Azul utilizes that 1 copy of Reset Stamp left in the deck, does play
后面
that
这一只
1
可能
copy.
就不敢进
Martial
化
Arts
咯。
Dojo also still online, so we'll be dealing
Yeah.
boosted damage. So now Azul does not need to find something like that Zigzagoon. Could also start to target down this Zamazenta on the bench and deal boosted damage. It's not very relevant,
你有
right?
主
You
播
are
不
still
行
hitting
啊！
a 2-hit knockout onto the Zamazenta with that 100 fist blows on that Urshifu V. But
看
again,
5
it's
点
just
了，
more
我不
options
信了
right, that Azul can utilize at this point. We'll be able to
我决定
utilize
看
that
完这
martial
场
arts dojo. At
然后
least
再
this
看下一
turn,
场
right?
神
If
仙
you
打
take a
架，我
knockout
就要
on
去
this
睡觉
Polki
了。
style gun Polki on the bench, then things can get tricky because now you're both at 1 prize card. You can't utilize martial arts dojo to the full effect. So Azul is going to go ahead and attach that Rapid Strike energy to the bench. Again, wants to just open up as many options as possible. Interesting choice to not go on the active necessarily, but is actually going to be forced to play it.
怎么下到龙鼠啊？
Azul needs to find that reset stamp here to put the V's hand down low. Is going to really
要拼印
prioritize
章
that,
吗？
especially playing the Dene GX down. Such an easy target for David to be able to finish off if this Arceus style and Palkia stays alive, but I don't think it will be, especially with that
看这边如果
Urshifu VMAX being able
滑上来打
to
150 不
damage
舒
to
服
take a
吗？
knockout. So maybe this is a safe play. As you pointed out, that Dene has resistance to Zamazenta, so even with the boosted Alter Creation, it will not be enough damage to take a knockout.
博士，
Yeah, I think David's going to have some turns, though, with this Zamazenta. You can just try to get like a 2-hit KO on something potentially and really go from there. Azul here, quick balls finds the Giratina. You need the Zigzagoon here in order to get this knockout. Martial Arts Dojo only does boosted damage for Pokemon that have basic fighting energy attached to them. So Rapid Strike energy not fulfilling that requirement.
Oh my
so would
God.
be 10 damage short of picking up this KO if that is the option Azul is going with. We are going to see
Oh,
the
这个
Marnie
玛丽
as well, and I think that with Azul playing
这
that
是三神
football,
要没老
not
大
getting
几率
Zigzagoon,
偏
I'm
低
pretty sure
耶
that。that means that the Galarian Zigzagoon is in the prize cards. And also that reset stamp, I believe it got discarded on turn 1, Ethan.
我
So
操，还真
while
的
it
没有
would。be a great card to have in this spot, it's not going to be an option Azul can find here, and is just going to have to settle for a Marnie as the disruption option.
This is so poor at this point, especially when you allow ADP to get off another Ultimate Ray, as Tool Scrapper will go ahead and get rid of both tool cards on Azul's side. Is
敢
going
没
to
有
get rid
填
of
基
that
本豆
Karate
啊，
Belt
没有填
in
基
addition
本
to
豆，差
that
10
bench
滴
air
呀
balloon,。as David's going to play an air balloon
他
of his
知
own.
道
I think he's
吗？
just deciding which target to play it on, as I'm sure we are going to see this professor's research get played. He's going to go
他
ahead
大
and throw
哥
that
知道他
on
没有
to
填
the
到基
active
本豆
ADP.
吗？
And here we go, big 7 cards. The Great Catcher at the bottom of the deck will not be able to draw
那个
into that.
球要
But
去
something
甩
like
一下
Quick
那
Ball
个
could
随机
actually
性啊，
reorganize the deck
让那个
up
狙他枪
if
跑出
David
来。
wants to push for that this turn. It looks like he is going to go ahead, and looks like considering it, right? It is a risk to play with Dene down. So honestly, I would like a lot more for David to play a little bit more passively this turn, right? Take the turn to take a hit into this active, then you can maybe dig the following turn, but it just feels really risky to go with something like this Crobat, especially when your opponent can set up game the following turn. I think David understands that is going to go ahead
看
and
今天能量顶
retreat
得
one
舒舒
energy
服
to that
服
air
哎。
balloon, making that retreat cost 2 less. And there we see it, the assault tackle dealing 160 damage, but also
厉害啊！
in addition to that, getting
他
rid
是
of
不是要
that
爆
rapid
开
strike
了？
energy. Such a powerful effect for an attack that does maybe not the most damage in this deck.
Yeah, definitely. And we see David going to go ahead and prep that Eldegoss in hand. So Azul knows that, you know, if he's not able to find the Zigzagoon or at minimum, like, a boss's orders to knock out that Arceus Dialga
看牛
Palkia,
主播不
David
行
just
了，
got game
看完这
in
场
hand
我要来，
unless
我要
we
倒地
even
了。
see, like, a Marnie to disrupt. But we will see the escape rope here, forcing that Arceus Dialga Palkia into the active spot, and a strafe, sending this Urshifu V safely back to the bench. And I mean, David is still a
现在是什
couple
么
of turns
意
away
思？
here. Boss's orders is not quite going to be able to do it. Of course, that Urshifu VMAX
这只
on the
盾
bench
狗
having
怎么办？
170 HP remaining when you're only dealing 160.
Yeah, I think the big thing to note here is Azul's still
刚才也
not
不
out of it,
敢
right?
白碰碰老
What
大
can
吗？
happen at this point is
白碰
if
碰
the
死
Zamazenta
不了
goes
吧？白
for
碰碰
an
死不了
assault。tackle onto this active, we could just see Azul make a play
好，
where
想睡觉。
oh, never mind, that's not possible. There are 2 VMAX in the discard pile, so the Zamazenta could just be safe to go for something like an assault tackle. Followed up by
Oh,
Boss's orders,
不行
right?
啊。
If you VMAX, you obviously give yourself more HP, it then pretty much puts you away from that. I think David
他肯
notices
定
that,
可以换位啊。
understands that both other VMAXs are in the discard pile, so a nice
进
heads up
化
play here. Azul's
进
gotta
化
put，something
他应该会
together.
进化。
He's got to put together another
然后后
Marnie
面
at this
上
point.
来
You
那
know
只
your
直接
opponent
打一拳。
has the Eldegoss. They grabbed it off of the quick ball. It's public knowledge. You know they have it, and you're pretty much accepting defeat.
一
If
定
you're
进
unable
化
to
连击
disrupt
熊
David's
啊，一
hand
定
here,
是要
quick ball
进
will go
化。
ahead and get rid of that Jirachi GX in the hand. Azul still, I believe,
干打
has
这
another
场
copy
牛
of
主
the
播不
GX.
行
It's
啊！
actually going to go
哇，
ahead and
牛
grab
主
the
播要睡觉
Giratina.
了。
It looks like thinning some cards out of the deck. We will see if there is something like a Marnie in combination with the switches. We see that come down. Does he have it here? There is another Rapid Strike energy and a Marnie.
哇
This is a
哇
big
哇
turn
哇
into
哇
the
哦！
other
这个
Rapid
能
Strike
量
energy
舔
also
爆
means
舔
this
爆
assault！tackle, while it will get rid of one, will allow this
再码一
Urshifu
次
V to attack the following turn. Do we see the boss? No boss right away. But there is the quick ball in hand actually, so that will guarantee David the game here. Has quick
哇
ball
哦！后
for
面
the
那只没
Eldegoss.
进化。
Eldegoss will be able to come
撒
down
尤娜
on the
娜。
bench. Happy Match will be able to grab that
撒
boss.
尤
So we're gonna go into game 3 here, Chip.
娜
Yeah,
娜。
definitely. And David made a huge adjustment
后
in game
面
number
那
2.
只
Went with that
没
Zamazenta strategy, and it paid
进
off.
化。
And it paid off big time. Azul
被
definitely
他酷
was in
到
a winning
哦。
position there in the last turns. If he doesn't Marnie his opponent into outs to find the boss's orders, then, you know, you very realistically win that game, especially with stacking the Rapid Strike energies onto that single Urshifu, meaning that Assault Tackle can't totally disrupt your Urshifu, right? So it definitely paid off for David in the end game. Had so many outs
也
left
有
in the deck. I
煮
mean,
过
that's
头
what
在
happens when
旁
you
边
don't use
装
your
莽
early。turns to play things like the Dene GX and the Eldegoss and stuff like that. You don't have to play that many quick balls. They're just outs for you in the late game when your opponent does inevitably reset stand.
看，一定是煮过头太累了，妈的，害我现在超想
The
睡
big
觉的。
key in that match. Azul was down that reset stand. That could have been very powerful.
Oh, for
especially
sure.
when this Arceus style Polka deck usually
看还有一场
draws
还有一
dead
场
hands with something like
哇，
Zacian,
这边
obviously does
这边
not
这边
want to
三
let
神也
down.
打得好好哦，
Let's
我
go
的
for
天
that
呐
lone！ Zamazenta. It worked out great for David
我
Chip.
每天看
Do
这
you
些
think that's the way
神
to
仙
go
打
in this
架，
match?
自己
Is
会
this
不会
gonna
变神
be
仙啊？
how David needs to play this in order to secure game 3? I want to hear your thoughts on this.
I mean, we've seen David at this point win 3 games against this specific list, and 2 of those 3 games he went for the Zamazenta strategy. And, you know, we'll have to see if that's what he opts to go for again, because I really feel like it is strong. It is a little difficult. Your hand does have to be set up pretty perfectly for that to happen, for you not to have to dig with something like a Dene GX in order to find the energy, because you do still, of course, want to get the turn 1 or turn 2 Altered Creation if you can. And almost certainly David will be going second in this game as well, since I'm sure Azul will be opting to go first. So we'll see if David, you know, maybe extends a little bit and does try to go for that
都
turn
是
1
鳄
Altered
鱼的
Creation,
错
or if he plays it a little slow,
笑
just
死
kind of, you know, goes for a similar strategy with the Zamazenta.
This is a big match, Chip. Winner moves on.
那燕佑
Loser
燕
goes
佑
home.
最强的技能就是放空啊，直接离开游戏。
No room for error. These players have to be on their game, playing their best. Let's go ahead, Chip. I'm excited. Let's go ahead and jump down into game number 3 between both of these players. Azul going first is big here, Chip. This means that Azul can potentially put together the cards to stop this ADP from getting off an ultimate ray. Do you think that's a step in the right direction
哦，
here?
集合雪花开场，
Yeah, definitely. And we actually see kind of an interesting option for
也
David.
没
Has
什
the
么
Cryogonal
不
in
好
the opening
吧
game.
只是要被
I don't know
3-2-1
that I
拿
want to
嘞，
see this come into play. What can happen is you allow your opponent to get a
要被
knockout on the
3-2-1 拿
ADP,
，3-2-1
knockout on
3-2-1
this, and then
啊
a knockout on
，3-2-1
a
啦，
two-prizer to close the game out. But I think David
这样
really
子连击
valuing the
熊确定
Mawile
可以
GX here.
3-2-1了
So。we might just see kind of the more traditional strategy, right? Trying to go for that boss KO, and maybe try to get some Pokemon in play on Azul's side with the Mawile GX.
Yeah, and smartly
只是这边如果物品控起来，连击熊是不是也挺不舒服的？哇，连击熊什么都没发哎、要控吗？要控吗？
Where David is able to get a turn 1 knockout with something like double metal saucer in combination with an attachment. So this is a very heads up play for Azul. Again, Azul, very seasoned, has been
哇，要
playing
控
for
吗？
years and years in the game, knows what he's doing. I really have to agree with you, Chip.
这边要控吗？哇，很犹豫，要控吗？填个水能等能转吗？
In the winners bracket, when David did play that Cryogonal down, so I have to imagine here, especially with this hand,
还是大嘴我要看一下，考虑要不要控。先
先
机，先大嘴我要看一下，再考虑要不要控。直接填的吗？不大嘴蛙了吗？
Looks like eyeing up a potential water energy.
哇
So many options to go, but we're actually just going to see the frozen lock on this Cryogonal. It's going to deal 10 damage to the active Zigzagoon. And also, more importantly, it's going to prevent Azul from playing any item cards this turn. It just opens up so many more options.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the Frozen Lock is a great option. It really makes it much more difficult for Azul
哦，
to
次次
get up and
HD
attack
点
this
一
turn.
下
You
啊
have to get the energy attachment, hard retreat, with the basic fighting energy, and get the VMAX in play as well. And if you do that, you're in a solid spot. Also, David, with this play, would be down a water energy, but as we can see, Azul being item locked here, actually just kind of in a tough spot. Gonna just have to use the passive boss's orders. Never something you love to see. Usually you want to be aggressive with your boss's orders whenever you're using them to take knockouts. Definitely not the case here.
I think this is fine at this point. Right now, you force David to find that energy switch, has to now dig through the deck, and when your opponent's playing Dedenne down, you're pretty content with that, especially when you get something off like a Gale Rust the following turn. So this is where it's going to be big. Does find the energy switch in combination with that metal energy, so he will be able to see David get off an Alter Creation. Yeah, cannot stress that enough. That is a big time draw for David, but
我现在发现画质好像挺差的。
is that there are those 2 prize and 1 prize weak Pokemon on the bench. Cryogonal having less than 120 HP.
为啥我的画质长这样？
Something like that G-Max Rapid Flow, the Dene GX.
什么毛病啊 ？OK， 跟我还要从我椅子上爬起来，好累啊！又插剑，为什么要插剑？到底为什么要插剑？要插你老母的剑，为什么要插剑？插剑是想要插谁？ 干我这边画质看起来怎么那么正常？为什么我直播画质这么差？
Starts things out with a martial arts dojo, so we'll be able to boost damage up a little bit more. There's the Zigzagoon. We'll be able to retreat into this Urshifu, but looks like not much so. Only, has that attack. 100 Fist Blows will deal 160 damage, so could set up next turn for something like that Urshifu VMAX to take a knockout with that G-Max Rapid Flow. But again, it feels really poor to not be able to find that VMAX, and we are going to see Ultimate Ray deal 180 damage, but more importantly is also going to accelerate 3 Metal Energy out of the deck.
Yeah, huge. Gonna go ahead and set up that Zacian
好
V,
哦，算了。
and man, this is really.
我的电脑可以用720P 耶，刚才怎么突然演到这样了？你娘嘞，回过头怎么演那么快？
A bad situation. You're definitely not out of it. And speaking of a big top deck, Professor's Research going to be able to discard that hand that was definitely not very strong. We saw Reset Stamp, Mimikyu, and Giratina. Not very good at all.
怎么觉得连击熊要走了？干怎么一转眼变这样
Azul's prizes are kind of mapped out very nicely for him here. He can take this 3 prize knockout on the Arceus Dialga Palkia, and then all you have to do is G-Max Rapid Flow, the Dedenne GX, and the Cryogonal. And that would close out the game in your favor.
Yeah, this is also smart to not go ahead and VMAX. It opens up more opportunities for something like Boss's Orders to take a knockout on Zigzagoon. So a very smart play from Azul. Most players would say, well, I can G-Max Rapid Flow right now, but
这么尴尬，哇塞，是不是可以？是不是可以来控物品啊？好爽哦，控物品还可以打死他。哇，爽的不行哎！控物品还可以打死他。啊，可是后面是不是也听牌啊？后面也听牌耶！哇，要控物品的，要控物品的。这个控下去不得了哎
！Grabs the dead A there off of that ball surge is actually going to go ahead and it looks like
为什么不控啊
going ahead and attacking, I think wants to maybe keep this hand as it will give him more outs for the following turn, but is eyeing up that dojo, right? That dojo is very scary. Boosting the damage.
刚为什么不控啊？为什么？
If they're behind on prize cards, but
为什么这边不是可以打40D 吗
？As Brave Blade will be dealing 230 damage, 260 with Alter Creation, plenty to take out this Urshifu. VMAX 290 actually has that rusted sword as well. It's going to be on Azul. Can Azul find the pieces? Only 3 cards left in hand. It's really
这边不是可以打40D 吗？到底为什么？为什么
？Pokemon needs to find that energy card. It could be the fighting energy or the rapid.
到底为什么？我不懂啊！这边印章啊，控物品是打40，不是舒服到不行吗？
David's got the cards at hand to make this work. Has the switch to reset Brave Blade. Has the so it's going to be on Azul to find some cards.
干你两丝嘞啊
！Time here, I don't know if Azul has anything.
Yeah, definitely thinking through the
我怎么看不懂啊？这边如果40打死，不是代表不会被印章，不会被印章，那底都有马力。为什么要让他发道具？为什么？到底为什么？对面这样子也太舒服了吧！
Gonna play it a little slower, just get this Urshifu VMAX, and has the research as well. Still has the option to win with the copy of Great Catcher that he plays. Great Catcher plus an energy is the game. Does he have it? There's the Great Catcher. Brings the Dene GX up. Is the energy in hand? If it is, Azul is going to move on to the next round of losers bracket play. What an insane turn out of nowhere.
我看下面第一超啦，下面第一超啦，吼。
Played it very, very well. Played to the outs. We saw he was really thinking through exactly how to play it there. Got the scoop up net. Went ahead in communication. Found the.
哎，下面这个是不是第一超？是不是第一超？是不是都看得出来下面第一超？哎，不是啊，平崎，为什么他不要动到鼠？还是他没水能啊？还是他没水能啊？
Had all the pieces left in hand, was able to put everything together. Azul will move on to the next round of losers, and importantly, is going to secure that trip to a future.
我回放一下，我看一下3层盖上面是几个能量死掉的。
Azul's prizes are kind of mapped out game because
这边是怎么演的
？To put together and 128.
Aggressive bosses orders never something you love to see.
这边是第二个水能。
Aggressive with your bosses orders whenever you're using them to take knockouts. Definitely not the case here.
I think this is fine at this point. Right now, you force David to find that energy switch. Has to now dig through the deck.
然后排库还有一个水能。
down, you're pretty content with that, especially when you can get something off like a Gale Thrust the following turn. So this is where it's going to be big. Does find the energy switch in combination with that metal energy, so he will be able to see David get off an Alter Creation.
对，他还有一个水能啊，他还有一个水能嘛。 他还有一个水能嘛？
And then they get bossed up. Cryogonals. It's gonna for options. This much up a little bit more. There's the Zigzagoon. Will be able to retreat. It has that attack. That again.
啊，对面卡到不行嘛？
Huge gonna go ahead and set up that. You're definitely not out of it. Definitely not very strong. We saw reset stamp, Mimikyu, and
yeah, this is also smart to not go ahead and VMAX. Play from Azul. Most players would say, well, I can Gmax Rapid Flow right now, but
这边嘛，我们来复盘这边嘛。
on
这
Azul
个
to find
这
the
个到
pieces
底
necessary
凭
the
什么
following
不打
turn.
40
The Venus had a
锁
pretty
道具啊？
solid
到
hand
底
here.
不凭
Has
什
the
么？
Zacian all powered
干
up.
次次，你
We
知道这个
could
几何
even
雪
see
花
something
可以
like this
锁道具吧？
diagonal
为
take
什
a
么啊？
knockout if there is that third water energy left in deck.
他这个东东鼠
And
怎么
item
不
lock
东
Azul
啊
as it is dealing
他都已
just
经
enough
印章
damage.
了。
Oh, yeah?
Boosted alter creation.
Oh, that would
will
be
deal
super
40
good.
damage in item lock, especially in combination with a reset stand blocking and taking off that ball surge is actually
啊
going
真的没
to
道
maybe
理啊
keep this hand as it will give him more outs for the following turn, but is eyeing up that dojo, right? That dojo is very scary. It is going to be a tie in prizes after this nomination. Plenty to take out this Urshifu VMAX to find the piece. Nice Pokemon energy of this. He's got the here. I don't know.
And dig here.
真的没道理，
Try
我
to
完全
dig
看不懂，
for that boss's orders plus the energy.
我完全看不懂。
That spot.
干你娘的！我原本想睡觉，我都醒了。
To get that trip to a future internationals chip. Again, I can't even stress that. What an exciting game to watch.
不是啊
Came down，to
不
the
是啊，
wire
是
between
都
both
是
of
3
the
张
players.
奖励卡
Azul
啊
able to find the pieces
他可以
necessary and will
他可以
take
用
that
东东
game
鼠去
out.
拼那个
With
水
Urshifu
能，
VMAX, so it's cool
然
to
后
see one
用
of these
几何
VMAX
雪花打
racing
40
so well at the top
然后
of this tournament. Again,
把
such a prestigious
前面那
tournament.
只打
So
死
many good
锁
players
物
here
品
we've seen
几乎
super
就稳
awesome
赢的啦。
matchup all throughout this weekend, and we have another big time match in the losers bracket.
我真的
here.
是
Let's go ahead and see
他
how
们
this
看到
bracket is
哦，
unfolding. We see Azul is the first player to advance.
可不可以让我
the
去
Future
睡觉？
Semi,
快要死掉了。
securing himself a
这边
trip
怎么可
to a
能会
future
不拼
international
锁道
championships.
具？
We've got one more losers quarters match, and this is one that I'm really
干我要
looking
中
forward
风
to. Chip.
了。
It's going to be between two pretty accomplished players in the game. Toward obviously maybe one of the
啊，这
best,
两个
if
怎么
not
又要再
the
打
best
一次啊？
in the Pokemon trading card game period.
干我真的要
On top
中
of
风
Kevin
了。
Kruger, maybe the online tournament champion expert here has been performing excellently, making a name for himself in this tournament. And it's going to be an exciting match. We're going to be featuring Urshifu VMAX, obviously towards little concoction.
干我
with
我
this
真的要中风了。
Chinchino trade
聊天室的
loves
各
that
位，
ability
你
very
们知道
much.
你
Up
排
against
库还有
Kevin
个水
Kruger's
能？
VMAX
这边有
deck
谁
of
不会
that
东东鼠
Victini
去
Max
拼一个水
victory
能？
against Chip, such a powerful attack.
Absolutely, and I'm
你
definitely
底下
excited
就已
to
经
see how
有一
this
只
one
东
is
东
going
鼠
to
啦
play out. We got
啊，再下一
to
只东东
watch
鼠
Kevin
会怎
yesterday
样
go
吗
up？against Mike Fouché. He was able to beat that version of Rapid Strike Urshifu.
是
We'll
吧
see how he？
不
fares
会怎
against
样啊？
energy. Gonna play it a little slower. Just get this
对啊，本来就有东东鼠啊，我真的要吐血，我真的要吐
good
血。
top deck to dig for that play. I guess you top deck Giant Hearth, you could dig for it, but I don't think it's necessarily worth it. I think we're probably just going to have to see Kevin going for the Victini V attached to it and go from there.
Yeah, an interesting thing to note, Tord could prioritize getting Mew down in this matchup. Bench Barrier is a great ability
让我吃个
against
巧克力
Pokemon
压压
like
惊。
Kramer and V. Obviously, we have talked about its usage in the matchup against
绿色
Urshifu
是薄荷
VMAX,
口
but
味
in
的
this match too, protecting your bench, protecting your attackers, protecting all of your Pokemon. In general, is just a great ability to have, as we do see a very solid hand.
刚我也快死掉了，可是我跟你讲，这场我一定要看完。试试你可以先去睡了。这个是世纪对决，一定要看。哇，对面扑好爽哦！2只奇诺115，一只卡比兽，太
Yeah,
舒服
no
了吧？
Urshifu V, so I definitely feel really solid for Kevin now being able to just go get a Victini
啊，可是
V.
下
I
面
mean,
是
this
打
is what
比
you
克
want
体
to
力
do
的
as，
下一
Kevin's
回
deck.
手田
You
老
want
大
to get an energy onto
也
Victini
是
V,
舒舒服
and
服
then
的。
on turn 2 find the VMAX, another energy, and boss's orders, and try to target down your opponent's Pokemon V. Also, Kevin playing that one copy of Volcanion, that definitely could be a huge piece here. Totally forgot that that was even in this deck list, and that is a huge piece. Can accelerate 3 energies out of the deck since this is Kevin's first turn going second.
Absolutely, that Flare Starter attack, letting you get 3
看
fire
这两个
energy
又
out of the
打
deck
一次
if you are going second.
哦
And it looks
我
like
先去尿
eyeing
尿
that up could be a good
刚才
grab
他妈
at
喝了
this
超
point.
大一
Looks
杯
like all Welder
柠
are
檬
in deck, none of them prizes.
冬瓜
Gotta
柠檬
feel good if you're Kevin playing in such an important match here. Again, the winner of this match securing a trip to a future international
我
championship.
顺便刷个牙，
Events
准
coming
备
up
点
in
爱
the
洗
future.
洗
It
睡
looks。like is going to go ahead and commit to this strategy here of utilizing Flare Starter. Really values that in this match, and we'll be able to also follow things
骂
up
你
with Marnie. What a solid top deck.
卡比兽起来
We'll
骂你
be
最
able
舒
to
服
pretty
了
much。negate towards Gormandize from the
哇
turn. Is going to give towards
看下面要
cards
填人给
from
古月
the
鸟
top
了
of the deck here, as Kevin really not finding too much there. I mean, has Cricketune, so exciting stage could draw
Switch.
2 cards here. We could also see Giant Hearth and a
不对
card out of
撤
the
退
hand.
撤退
So there are a bunch of options.
不拿火能
Could go ahead and retreat into that Cricketune. Does have a switch in hand, so I think we are going to see that from Kevin. There's the retreat.
抽两
Exciting
张
stage, going to draw 2 cards. Needs to find a Pokemon really to accelerate those energies
哇
onto,
莉
but
莉娅
there's
什么都没
nothing
有
really there. So Kevin is going to be forced to utilize Flare Starter to throw some energies
给
on
古月
this
亮
Perimeter, but looking at his
哇
hand,
下面
he
这
may
个
have
刚
to
刚
rely off his
刚刚
exciting
通信给
stage
比克
for
提
the
你会不会
following
比较
turn.
好啊
Yeah, really unfortunate and awkward
这马起来
draws
直接
there
变
for
喜寒
Kevin.
了
I really would have, I think, liked to have seen the research. I know it's so tempting when your opponent has like a 7-card hand to just go ahead and Marnie, but with this fire deck, you really,
我怎么
whenever
觉
you're
得
going first, want to get great
刚刚
value.
下面
Excuse me, when
如
you're
果
going
刚刚是
second, you know,
通
on your
信
first turn of
比克
attacking,
提你
want to
起
get
来
great value from
手
Flare
甜
Starter. So
然
I
后
think
下一
getting
回
down a
合古
Victini
月
and
鸟
getting
你要
a
追
couple
捕
energies
捉
on that, and then, you know, something else like
会不会比较
you know,
好
second Victini,
去尿尿
Heatran, Reshiram, and Charizard, any of those Pokemon are potential great options to just accelerate more and more energy too.
Yeah, it looks like Pokemon Communications will be able to grab any Pokemon out of the deck for Tord. Has plenty of options. May want to start establishing those Chinchinos to draw some more cards out of the deck. Definitely could see him going ahead and grabbing a Rapid Strike Urshifu, but it looks like the hand is pretty poor if we see something like this. The Dene come down. It looks like we are actually going to see the scoop up net from Tord is going to re-bench that Snorlax. Just going to give him more options, and there we see the Dene is going to go ahead and discard that Marty. Notice that Kevin didn't really have the solid hand. Wasn't able to play much from that hand, so smartly going to go ahead and say, it hurts to bench the Dene here, right? You really don't want to bench the Dene, especially when you're staring down a Cramorant the following turn, but really prioritizes not allowing Kevin to have even more options the following turn.
Yeah, definitely. And I think if we see Tord go with a capture energy here, I'd be really interested to see what he eyes up. Is it going to be the Mew or is it going to be the Urshifu? But doesn't even have to find the capture energy, just has the Mew in hand right away. That is going to keep this Dedenne GX safe on the bench.
Yeah, and I think we may see something like a Gormandize Smart of Tord is going to utilize that Giant Hearth to draw an extra card off of Gormandize. Obviously, he doesn't have any fire energy in his deck, but Giant Hearth can be utilized by any player and requires you to discard a card. And since your deck is private knowledge, you can utilize that even if you have no fire energy in deck. For anyone wondering, why can Tord use it? He's not playing any fire energy in deck. That is the ruling on it. As we see, Kevin is also going to utilize that Giant Hearth to draw 3 cards off Exciting Stage. Let's see what he's able to grind. Finds the Crobat. That is an excellent draw. But again, there's not really anything great to switch into. High Heat Blast is not dealing enough damage to take a knockout. Kevin has already retreated for the turn. So this is where things get tricky. Crobat can draw you an extra card, I guess, if you play the switch, but it just doesn't feel great. But it looks like Kevin is going to go ahead and go for that. There is the Crobat, going to draw 4 fresh cards. And what a draw off there. Finds the Welder, finds Victini, finds 2 energy. That may have been the best, I guess, 4 cards that Kevin could even draw in that case.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even finding like a boss's orders could have been solid there because you can always retreat this Cramorant. I believe did play a switch to start the turn.
Oh, he did play another one. Okay.
Yeah, could go ahead and retreat into the Volcanion and target down either the Mew or one of these Minchinos, but able to find the Welder. And, you know, it doesn't feel great to spit shot this Snorlax, but it might need to be the play you go for. You also alternatively could go for a Beak Catch to try to set up a boss's orders play, and I don't necessarily hate that line either.
Yeah, the big thing to note toward playing some of those revenge mechanic cards like that Karate Belt, it feels really bad to take a knockout on Snorlax, right? You open up the bench space, Snorlax has gotten its use in. It's
and you're discarding
twice.
3 energies to do it as well.
Yeah, and you'd have to discard 3 energy. We know Kevin is playing some cool cards in his deck, is playing 1 copy of Fire Crystal, a lot less than we've seen other Fire Toolbox decks play necessarily. Another interesting thing to note here that could come in useful later on in the game is playing that Wondrous Labyrinth of Prism Star with no real Fairy Pokemon in the format. Not playing it because he's playing Fairy Pokemon, playing it because it makes all Pokemon in play's attack costs 1 colorless more. So it can be really good at slowing Tord down. Tord can put together those combination of cards like things such as the Karate Belt in combination with that Rapid Strike energy. Can put together things like the Karate Belt maybe in combination with the Capture energy and other fighting energy. So that could be a card to keep your eye on, Chip, late in the game, especially in combination with something like that 1 reset stamp like Kevin is playing.
Yeah, definitely. Could be huge for sure. And we see Kevin going to go ahead and get the Reshiram and Charizard as well. Was eyeing up the Mewtwo, but has the Quick Ball in hand. So we could definitely see that be an option to take a quick, easy knockout on to a Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX if that is something Tord wants to go with. I mean, we've seen Tord play this deck out plenty of times at this point. We know that he rarely, if ever,
哦，
wants to be
看
the
完
person
这一
taking
场
the
好
first
睡
prize,
觉
but
了哦，
loves
已经演
playing
到
on
哪
the
了
line, spreading damage with that.
哦，看来还没有很
Rapid
激
Strike
烈的
energies
碰
with
撞。
the Karate belt, so yeah, we'll see how Tord navigates this turn. Does get things started by getting the first Chinchino in play, and we'll probably
怎么
see
下
the
面还
first
是
of
长
many
这样啊？
make dues here.
Yeah, and Pokemon
发生什么
Communications
事了？
can grab that VMAX out of the deck if Tord chooses to. Could also grab the second Chino out as well. So Tord, again, having plenty of options. Pokemon Communications, a great support search option to find those Pokemon out of the deck. There is the VMAX. Another thing to note, Chip, Tord is playing no Stadium cards in this list. And no ways to remove Stadium cards.
Right.
So that could make something like that Wondrous Prism Star even more useful, but more important, it allows Kevin to play a little bit safer in this case. However, Marnie is going to put a halt in Kevin's plans, but will guarantee him at least the Welder this turn with something like
啊
that
哈，没
Giant
错，
Heart
我
being
刚才
in
觉
play.
得那边
That
抓
is
比
gonna
克
allow
比较
Kevin
好，
to
然后
execute a
虎
strategy
月
a
鸟
lot
可以
easier,
鸟水补
especially
做，
having consistent
只
access
是
to fire energy
那边怕
throughout
玛
the
丽
game
啦，
as we
他
see
被
the
玛丽
second
就算了
Chinchino
嘛，
come down into play. It's
手
going
牌
to
变
allow
很烂，变
Tord
玛丽
to
也没
make
关系
do
啊。
even more. He's going to go ahead and get rid of that Giratina. Not very useful in this matchup when your opponent is playing all basic energy, but we did see it put in work in the matchup against Eternatus with the weak guard energy. So Tord, gonna go ahead and say goodbye to it for now. You've done your job. You can go ahead and take a little break.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, we see Kevin here, a lot of energy in play. Definitely what you want to see when you're playing Heatran GX in your list. So, I mean, it's definitely a scary situation for Tord if Tord ever decided to attack with the Urshifu here. It's very easy for Kevin to just go ahead and find that Heatran GX. We see the Quick Ball in hand. We see the Welder as well. Could definitely take a quick knockout there. So we'll see how Tord wants to navigate things here. Is he going to be content playing things a little bit slower? I think with this communication, there's nothing you really want here, so it might just be putting a card back into the deck here so that you can draw a couple extra cards off of the Gormandize.
Yeah, it feels very bad to throw this Urshifu up to pretty much set math up to 2-hit KO this Cramorant in the active on top of that. Yeah, I mean, I think Tord really wants Kevin to take this prize card on Snorlax. He wants that extra bench space to utilize something like that second Urshifu VMAX. The problem is there's nothing Tord can really take off the board. Doesn't want to take away that draw engine. You know he loves Chinchino. He loves drawing cards to the deck. Mew obviously putting in work. Doesn't want Kevin to be able to take easy prize cards with something like the Spit Shot. So I think Tord is just going to take the turn to thin out his hand and utilize Gormandize drawing 4 cards. I feel like that's the most common amount of cards we see Tord draw with Gormandize. Just the way this deck plays out as Crobat V off the top of the deck. Has a few options. Quick Ball could thin it out. I wouldn't hate seeing Kevin thin this hand out to maybe 0.
我操！下面刚才是想了多久啊？直接一来就直接钉钉诶。
Such a powerful card in this matchup. So I think he's going to have to be forced to
没
actually
能量。
get rid of this Crobat. Having no fire energy left in the deck with Giant Heart, had to get rid of a lot. And I don't know if I saw Fire Crystal in there, Chip. Maybe it's
I didn't notice it.
1、2、
Yeah,
3、
definitely
4、
seems like
5、
that's something
6、
that
7
Kevin's going to have to be digging for.
里面是
off
卡了
the
几
prize
颗
card. So
能量啊，
some
要
pretty decent
求
options
贵
here as
哦。
Kevin, though. You can go ahead and retreat and then play the escape rope, and then, you know, whatever your opponent sends up, you can get a knockout either with the Victini
哇
or potentially with
这
the
个叉是
Volcanion
不丢
or
了。
potentially with the Cramorant.
咚
So
咚
I think
咚
that's what I'd
咚
really like to see here.
咚咚
Retreat this Cramorant V, maybe just into the Cricketune for the turn. Mew definitely coming down seems super solid, and then just kind of force your opponent to determine what the prizes are going
先
to
吸
be.
能
But
回来。
actually, we're going to see Kevin take a different route, go with the Spreading Flames. I like this as well. I mean, you kind of, I think at this point you've kind of figured out Tord likes to play things a little bit slower, and maybe just setting up a big Victini V. What do you think of this, Ethan? Could we see just a big energy burst to try to sweep through this game?
That would be great. I love to see it. It's a little hard. Tord is a very smart player, can play around that by discarding his own energy off of something like G-Max Drive and Flow. I think it's important that Kevin was able to get the Mew down there. Will protect him from taking bench damage. Another interesting thing to note is this could also play into a play like Wondrous Labyrinth Prism Star. I know I keep talking about it, but we haven't seen it so far get played down, and it's very useful against this deck that wants to put together perfect energy math, right? Wants to utilize the exact 3 energy with the double energy to utilize the G-Max Drive and Flow. Wants to utilize the 1 fighting energy to utilize that Gale Thrust. So it really depends here. But again, Kevin has a lot of outs, is going to need to find some prize cards quickly though. So I think with this hand, interesting choice. I don't think utilized Exciting Stage last turn. Could have also maybe retreated and Actually, I think his hand was full. The Cricketune could not have gone to the active, so pardon me on that. It looks like we are going to see some make-it-dos from Chinchino. Tord is just getting rid of those pieces. He doesn't want him deck, right? We saw him get rid of the Giratina. Now another Minccino, and there's the Birdkeeper, which will go ahead and draw Tord even more cards. There's already 13 cards left in his deck, Chip, and no one's taken a prize card yet.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to see Tord kind of change the pace here. We haven't seen Tord be the first one to attack. Maybe now is the time we'll finally start to see Tord put on a little pressure, and it looks like that is going to be the case. Gale Thrust here, dealing 150 damage, wants to start applying the pressure and kind of force Kevin to do something.
Yeah, this is smart from Kevin. Throwing all those energies
god
onto the active.
1 2 3 4 打150
Discard that Mars Shadow. It will allow Kevin to draw one card off Exciting Stage. Make that 2 is actually going to go ahead and discard Welder. Not something we see a lot, but we know Kevin has no more fire energy in deck. Finds a Professor's Research off of those 2 cards. Big time draw here for Kevin, as also has the Escape Rope. So this could put Tord in an awkward spot. If you promote this Dene, then the Cramorant can take a knockout. If you promote maybe this Mew or this Chinchino, then Volcanion can take a knockout. So Tord has definitely got to think about what to bring up with Escape Rope here.
Yeah, and I like this from Kevin. I mean, there's really no great option from Tord of what to send up. And this is why Escape Rope is so strong in so many decks, but definitely in Victini as well, because it gives you so many options of what to, you force your opponent to kind of be in these awkward situations, as we do see that Wonder Labyrinth doesn't want to put that in play yet.
我要暴毙
Still
了，
wants
好
to
想
spit
睡
shot
觉
this。 turn, take this knockout onto Dene for 2 prizes, but that is something I think could be a really key card. You've talked about it a couple times, Ethan, and I think there's a good reason for that. I think we'll definitely see that come into play.
I need to preach it. I love seeing Wondrous Labyrinth Prism Star. It's such a cool design card, right? It hurts both players in this case, but it can be more beneficial for Kevin, especially when you see this Victini V have so many energy on it. And I think there's positive and negatives to playing the Escape Rope there. You do get to take an easy 2 prize cards, but the thing on the other side of hand
干
is
又要让他
you
拿
don't
奖
get to
励了
apply any damage or pressure
黑带
necessarily
黑带
to
loop
these
要来了
Ursa V
黑带
maxes, and
loop
the more time you give them, the
黑
harder
带
it can be. We
loop
do see no fire
起
crystal
来
prizes, so it is in those last 4 prize cards here for Kevin does find the boss's orders off the prizes. That could be a big card here. If Kevin decides to go for a route to maybe go for a Victini VMAX, could take an easy knockout on this Urshifu V, but I would not be surprised if we see Tord find that Urshifu VMAX in deck. I believe still has 2 copies of it left, and we know Tord is already through so much of the deck. 10 cards now. That will be at least 8 by the end of this turn because of that second make do. The first one will go ahead and get rid of Capture Energy again. Cards we really don't want to see, and this is where Mewtwo really shines, Chip. It can
老大
actually
撒梦
perfectly
环
synergize with the Chinchino.
Oh,
Use my
yeah.
report to put that boss on top, and then this make 2 will guarantee
找
draw
到
into
斗
it.
场
We could see this boss's orders
打
start down the view.
30老大
Also
变
down
打
something like the
60
Victini. We do also see the level ball get
填
played
一个
against
基
Tord.
本豆
Sequencing this perfectly. He knows how to play
杀
this
死
deck. He's
梦
put in
幻
the time behind it.
准备
Even
开
with it being such a
启
new concept, we
黑
haven't
带
really seen
looper
this Chinchino engine paired along with anything else. I think we
Hey,
saw it maybe
that
early on in the format. The
looper.
last deck I really feel like I've seen this shine in has been Control and Mill, when Mill was a deck at the beginning of the Sword Shield era, as we actually see the second energy come down. So I think this is going to target down the Victini here.
直接打死
It's
比格
going to
里
allow Tord to take a knockout in combination with a reset stamp. Is going to put Kevin down to a much smaller hand size and not the best cards. I mean, has boss's orders, but you're having all your energy get wiped here with this Gale Thrust. What do you think? Do you think Kevin has any way to respond from this, or do you think this is just too much pressure from Tord?
I mean, this is almost game. Kevin has 10 energies in the list.
如
There
年
are now 7 in the
牙
discard pile and 2 on the Volcanion. You don't have the Fire Crystal, it's in the prizes. And
牙
that
到
last
不
copy of Fire Energy is
行
also in the prizes. So, I mean, Kevin's only real option here is going to be boss's orders. Oh, you don't even do enough damage with the Volcanion. You're only doing 50, right? So you can't even knock out a Chinchino or even a 60 HP Mew. And Kevin's going to go ahead and scoop that one up and say, I'm going to go first in game 2, and we'll have to go back to
看
the
打他没火能
Kevin
呢
will need to win 2 games here in
我
order
没
to
我
move
我
on to
我
the
刚才
loser semifinals.
我刚才没有算错的话，他好像
Kevin
剩
is
下全部都
definitely
剩下
on
奖
top,
励
though,
卡
as
一
you
堆
said,
火
Chip.
能呢。
Having no energy in deck, you need energy to attack in the Pokemon trading card game. It feels really bad to not have any energy left in deck. I think he's definitely gonna have to make some adjustments, Chip. One of them, as we talked about, having fire energy in deck.
奇
You
诺
need
艺
to be
术
able
啊
to attack in order to stay
丢
in the game.
一
Is there
抽
anything
二
else
这是
Kevin should maybe sequence or put pressure on early on in the game that could put him in an X
Yeah,
spot?
maybe Kevin put a little too much energy in play too quickly and just like put all his eggs kind of in one basket. I think at that point, whenever you take the knockout with spit shot, you just kind of know there's this
不是
Victini
我
with
我
150
我
damage
我看
on
下
him,
面
and
好
he's
像
got
古月鸟
basically
射
all
了
of your
射了
remaining
2个奖励
energy,
出
right?
来，
'Cause
还
the
是
two
没
on
火呢。
Volcanion are gonna be
啊，我刚才
pretty
算一下
useless.
他
You know that if that gets knocked out, the game
好像
is
卡了不少
pretty
火
much
能
gonna
诶，
be
还是他
over,
火
and
能
that's
没带
exactly
很
what we
多，
saw
真的不知道
happen.
下面有
Kevin
几
unable
颗
to。do anything, just had to scoop it up. So Kevin will be going first, which is huge. So if Kevin can find the Victini V, get an
刚
energy
刚场
attached
上
to it, and then
4
on
颗
turn 2 find the
古月
VMAX
鸟射
as
掉
well
3
as
颗
a
7
boss's
颗
orders and start targeting those rapid
水火神
strike
上面
Urshifu
2颗
Vs
9
super
颗，
quickly. I mean, that's what this Victini deck loves to do. So if Kevin can make that happen, it'll be tough for Tord to keep up.
剩下4张奖
Yeah,
励卡
maybe
里
the key to
面
this matchup, early pressure. We've
可
talked
能
about it
有
a
3
lot
张
throughout
火
this
能
tournament. It is a
或
big
2张
part
火
of
能
the meta game right now. Let's go ahead and get into this crucial game number 2 between both these players. Again, the winner of this set will get a free trip
哦
to an upcoming
这是
international
说黑带 loop
championship.
是什么吗？
As it looks like
就是他奖励落后，然后插个黑带，然后就一直用，一直贴一个连技能量，蹦2颗，蹦2颗，蹦蹦蹦，就这样。好，你可以睡觉了。晚安。
Not out of it. We really can't stress it enough. Toward whatever position he's put in, he's going to make the most out of it.
Oh, definitely. You can never count Tord out. That is for sure. As we see kind of a little bit of an awkward start here for Kevin. Just going to have to go ahead and dead
我操，直接
exchange.
果断
A
东
lot
东
of
鼠哎
pretty good，
怎么这么
cards
果断呢？
away.
果
Gets
断
rid
到
of
我
the Fire Crystal, gets rid
什么
of
时候开始打这么
a
快了？
Welder and does not find a Victini V.
Oh my, finds nothing off of this. You're going to be down 2 Welder if you Dede change the following turn. Obviously, the Dede having a limit, you can only utilize 1 Dede change per turn is actually going to go ahead. I like this. Giant Heart the Weight Energy. That's 1 more card you can go ahead and get rid of. And we're actually going to see Kevin thin this hand down.
One card, one time. One card, one time.
Baby. Let's see it.
one card one time one in
No,
me
it
one
would've been
in
great to
老
see that.
母
Actually,
什
would've
么
been Kevin
都
in the
没
right spot. Could have
有。
attached to a Victini if he found one there. And
One
then,
card,
the
one
following turn to put
time.
him in a solid spot. We'll still get energy on Cricketune, so will be a free pivoter the following turn, right? Only has a 1 retreat cost, so can utilize that to discard energy. So we're going to start things off with a great card. A lot of people wondering, I guess, why play so many copies of Capture Energy, but we see it is crucial in Tord's deck to get these Pokemon on the bench set up. And at the end of the day, it can still pair really well with that Rapid Strike energy.
Yeah, I mean, it really is truly reminiscent of that old Zoroark Golisopod deck that Tord played. I mean, that deck played the 4 copies of Bridget. We've got the 4 Capture Energies in here. It really is just a super similar parallel. And, you know, Tord took that tournament by storm, that EUIC that year, and definitely feels like Tord is taking this one by storm. Could we see the repeat, Tord taking it all the way to the finals potentially?
Yeah, improvise, adapt, and overcome. That's what matters when you do
感觉
deck
连
building.
击
You
凶
have
好
to
稳哦，连
continuously
击凶
adjust
好稳
to
哦
the，changing
稳到
card
不
pool,
行
the。changing meta, and Tord is a master of that. His lists are a thing to fathom. You kind of take a look at them sometimes, and you wonder why they're like this. But when you see them in action, you really just say, This is peak right here. This is peak deck building. As Tord is able to get the Bird Keeper off and is able to get a Stellarish Pokemon Communications again. Such a powerful card will be able to throw a Pokemon back into the deck.
干，我希望透着
and
赶快
find
赢，我要睡
another
觉
one.。This is a great
我
card
超想睡的。
to throw things up and find those key Pokemon out of the deck. Here we go. We also see the air balloon will come down onto that bench. Urshifu V. Tord has a very sizable hand and plenty of things to work with.
那一定要
As
打
we're actually
30
gonna see this
滑一下
Jirachi
吗？
go ahead and do it again. Stellar Wish a second time. That's what's super cool about all the pivoting cards Tord plays in this deck. You can utilize that 1 copy of
再
Jirachi.
许
I
个
feel
愿
like all
他
these
想要
one-ups
铺
in the
场
deck
吧
that Tord is playing, he's utilizing them to the best of the ability. 1 Jirachi, 1 Giratina, a single copy of Mew, a single copy of Mewtwo, Snorlax. It's crazy, Chip. He is just utilizing every single card. No card is going to waste in this deck.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Wait,
actually
Ma,
really
对方
interesting.
吗？
We do see that 1 copy of Jirachi. I love this deck building choice from Tord. It is just such a solid 1 of piece. I mean, for as long as Jirachi has been around, it's pretty much been a 3
当然
or
不会
4
嘛，
of
对
in
方。
most people's decks if they are choosing to go with that engine. But Tord just kind of keeping it as a 1 of option. It does work super well, of course, with Scoop Up Net, the air balloons, all that stuff, and kind of reminiscent
One
of the
card,
old days,
one
the
time.
original
Oh, Yoda.
Jirachi with the Wishing Star ability. Poke Power from back in EX Deoxys. I mean, very similar ability slash Poke Power, and paying off big for Tord, just having that one copy being something that he can utilize.
And you're taking me back. That's probably before I was walking, man. All the way back.
龙接工吗？
Pokemon trading card game. Jeez, man. All right, we will see the Welder on to Cricketune. Again, we've seen a cast of characters that Welder has thrown energies onto. Cricketune is the latest to join the team. And this is actually smart. I mean, you can utilize something like the Burning Train, or my bad, the Burning Road, right? That allows you to put energies off the Heatran from Pokemon onto it. So we are going to actually see the exciting stage. It's going to go ahead and draw an extra card of the best here, right? Boss's Order, something you want to draw into when you have Pokemon to really apply pressure onto at this point. Marshadow is probably a wasted bed space at this point too. It feels really bad to have your bench be clogged up by all the support Pokemon. You have to bench down early to try to get your strategy going, as there is a Dead Eye change. This does find a pretty nice hand of cards. Has the Victini, will be able to at least take a knockout onto this Heatran. There we go ahead and see the retreat and move in the energy. Such a cool ability. You love to see these, again, similar to Top Coco GX and a lot of abilities we've seen throughout the time of the Pokemon trading card game, as Steaming Stomp will deal 260 damage to poor little Jirachi and take the first prize.
Yep, and this is kind of the situation Tord does not mind finding himself in. I mean, he's only got 4 cards, but he's got 2 Minchinos in play, ready to become Chinchino, as we see Chinchino number 1.
我操，直接2只起诺利鼠，太舒
We'll
服了吧
certainly see many make-dos here, and we'll have to see if Tord is able to make do with whatever cards he's given off of this. Not able to knock out the Heatran quite yet, but can throw some solid damage into play. And of course, with Kevin's Kevin's bench pretty clogged up, not going to be able to bench that Mew unless he utilizes Marshadow to discard his own stadium.
And something I want to point out here, that was an interesting choice from Tord. Utilize the Giant Heart to discard the Cheryl, a card that could be pretty useful in this matchup. Maybe wanting to have easy access to it with something like the Mewtwo Mind Report later on in the game. So again, Tord making plays that I have to just stop and think about and say, well, why did he use Giant Heart there? And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. But there we actually see the Mewtwo go back into the deck with Pokemon Communication. Will find that Urshifu VMAX. Tord has not utilized, I believe has utilized 1 make-do so far. So still has the ability to do that again. Make that 2 Pokemon Communication. A whole party of throwing Pokemon in and out of the deck here. We'll throw that Mew back in the deck. Crimmerin isn't really a threat at this point. Kevin has, I guess, a way to get Marshadow out of play at the cost of discarding his own Giant Heart, but is actually going to prioritize the Dene of the own, and this could be a great turn for Tord. There is no Mew in play. Chip, I think we're going to see a G-Max Rapid Flow deal a whole bunch of damage to some pretty important Pokemon.
Yeah, we'll have to see how Tord sets the damage up. Very commonly in this spot, we've seen Tord play it slow, not take knockouts so that he can continue to utilize Karate Belt to pull off back-to-back G-Max Rapid Flows. But, Kevin can always take this one prize Pokemon out of play in that Marshadow. So, I mean, things are set up for Tord to just be able to go, like, knock out Heatran and then knock out 2 Dedenne GX. So that might be the strategy we see him go for. But you also could knock out this Marshadow and then knock out 1 Victini VMAX. I feel like, as long as you can find those bosses' orders, if you haven't prized too many of them, I feel pretty good about just trying to go knock out Heatran and then knock out the 2 Dedenne.
Yeah, that seems like a pretty nice strategy. Tord is going to go ahead and grab another Minchino. We haven't actually seen a triple trade turn yet, Chip, I believe, watching all of Tord's games. I hope we get to see it. That is such a cool ability. Again, make do, allowing you to draw through your deck, get rid of those pieces that you don't want. And Tord's got options. I cannot stress that enough. He has got plenty of options to work with. I believe this Urshifu has not retreated, so cannot utilize Gale Thrust to their full effect, so we're most likely going to see the G-Max Rapid Flow deal some damage across the board. I'm going to make my guesses here. I think we could see this take a knockout on the Marshadow. We are. So I like this play. Taking the knockout on the Marshadow sets up the math to get through something like this Victini VMAX, which we are likely going to see go ahead and get evolved at some point during this game.
Kevin having kind of a rough
快透得快秒了他，我要下播，想睡觉啦。
So you can always utilize Eldegoss to get that back and Welder onto the Victini V and try to get a VMAX. I think I definitely would love to see Kevin try to attack with the Victini VMAX here. The problem is you are down a ton of your switch cards at this point, so it makes it a little harder to get this Heatran out of the active spot, because having this Heatran around could be really good in the late game since it can pick up a 1-hit KO on a totally clean Urshifu VMAX.
你不如守田，
As
下
I see
面
this game plan right where we maybe take a turn
老
to
大
Wonder
杀一
and
只奇
and
诺利
prepare
索
the，Victini VMAX to finish off this Urshifu after something like a Steaming Stomp.
让他
Same
少一
image
张
keeps
动一
replaying my
张
mind chip.
我要
Giant
开局
Heart
杀了。
away. The Cheryl could be such a key card on this next turn as we actually see
哇
Kevin
塞，
is
这
going
个
to go for
杀
a little bit of
杀
different
这张
route.
东东鼠让他
Hopper
位置
GX to take the knockout
空的好
off
舒
this
服
Dedede,
哦。
and Kevin is trying to map the prizes out to take these last final 3 prizes on this Urshifu VMAX. However, Tord, while you are
但
losing
对
2
面一
prizes
回合要
this
抽
turn, you
6
can't
张
be too
了。
upset, right? Your clean VMAX is still in play, and you'll be able to get off even more attacks, especially being able to at least take 2 prizes, most likely, onto this Heatran GX. So we'll see what route he decides to play. There is a high chance we are going to see the 3rd Chino come out. If it's not in the prizes, there is the level ball, able to search out any Pokemon with 90 HP left. Here it is, Chip. I'm excited for this.
Reminiscent of the triple trade days, triple make do, it seems right now for Tord. Very solid spot. And, I mean, Kevin's not totally out of it for sure, but, I mean, this is where Tord wants to be. You're down, but you're definitely not out. You've got your complete board set up. Pretty much. You don't have another Urshifu V. But, I mean, honestly, at this point, do you even really need another VMAX? I think that this one single VMAX could definitely carry you the distance.
I think Tord would rather save those bench spots for something like that. Mewtwo could also play something else down, right? He is only playing a 3-3 line
各位我不行
of
了
that Minchino
他实在打太慢
and
了
Chinchino.
他实在打太慢了
Maybe
各位
less than
我要直接下播了
later.
我
So
受不了
there
了
are a ton of options,
我
right?
是小狗狗
He has
我要
plenty
睡
of
觉了
options to play with. I mean, there's
夜
nothing
又
else. A
不是
lot
小
of
狗
those
狗
key support
我是小
Pokemon
狗
are
狗
in other matchups, not in this
我要
matchup,
睡
have
觉了
already been discarded.
强
You
制
don't
下
really
播
need
晚
too
安
many support Pokemon in this matchup. The only one that really sticks
秒
out
下
is
播
something
眼睛
like
直接闭上
that. Mew, right? Because you can protect your bench against something like the Spit Shot. As I'm also